All right, peace. ETM Hotep, welcome in peace. This is your brother Wujau, Meneb Edi Ma'at, and you are tuned in to the Sesh Netcher YouTube channel. This is our channel where we have a lot of archive material and videos where we are sharing information, learning information, having open discussions on everything dealing with the Egyptian language and its culture, and also some information on the periphery of that tying into ancient Egypt. All right, so today we're going to have an open discussion, another open discussion, and we're trying to keep these videos consistent. So we went on a long hiatus or a vacation from YouTube, and a lot of people, while we were kind of MIA, a lot of people have been inboxing us, emailing me, inboxing all of us, even in our Facebook group, asking when are we going to start, sharing information during the Freestyle Fridays and the Divine Words Wednesdays. So 2020, here we are. We're going to stay consistent, and we're basically back. All right. So we're opening up this year by having a lot of open discussions to see where people's heads are at, see what people think, see what people feel, see what people are focused on when it comes to information related to ancient Egypt or Kemet. So tonight is no different. So tonight's discussion is going to center around why people believe in literal interpretations of Egyptian texts. All right. But before we continue, again, this is your brother Wujau, pretty much running point. But I have other members of the Sesh with me, and I'm sure they want to give you all a greeting and introduce themselves.
ETM Hotep, welcome in peace, everybody. It's your brother June. Just want to say thanks for tuning in and showing support. We appreciate it. If you get something out of it and like the show, please give us a thumbs up. That helps the channel a lot. And with that, I like to say Hotep.
Hotep Abet. This is Amy Kid, and welcome to the show.
ETM Hotel, Rennie Sean. Welcome in peace. My name is Sean. To everyone that's tuned into the show today. Please like the show, share the show. If this is your first time watching us, please subscribe to the channel and share with like-minded individuals who also are obsessed with getting knowledge, man. That's pretty much it, learning. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
All right. So again, let's the focus. This is an open discussion, so I'm going to post a link in the chat, and we post a link in the chat so that we can get participation. So it's all about communication and participation. So we're inviting everyone to come on the panel who would like to and share some information, share your thoughts, and maybe answer some of the questions that we may raise. But remember, this discussion, although it's open, we want to focus on why people believe in literal interpretations of Egyptian texts. Now, here's the reason why that question is important right now. Last week, I had announced that I was going to do a presentation related to that topic, whether, basic literalism versus figurative expressions. And so what I decided to do, I changed my mind basically. And what I decided to do was to solicit more precise answers from enough people on why they feel that the Egyptian text should be interpreted literally. All right, because I already know that there's quite a few people out there that believe that the Egyptians believe in what is written in those texts as something literal. I already know that. And so if I address that in general, then that's too general. And, it may not have an effect on changing the conversations. So what I decided to do is to solicit some more precise, information from everyone on why they believe that. So that's what I would like to know. I want to know why, if you're one of the people who believe that the Egyptian text should be taken literally and that the Egyptians themselves took those texts literally, then I want to hear from you, and I want to know why you feel that way. What are you using to come to that conclusion? Why do you feel that way? And so that's my goal, and that's what I want to solicit and fish for before we teach or address it, all right? Because I don't want to just do the blanket general address. That's not as effective as being more specific, okay? So again, just to be clear, I want to hear from you all. And even if you personally don't believe that, you can still share why you feel others believe that. Okay, so, it's wide open. So I'm going to post a link in the chat right now. Just wanted to give you all the heads up on the discussion. And I would like to see you all join the chat. Join the panel to let your voice be heard. And if you're unable to join the panel, then you can share your thoughts inside the chat. I think we're all watching the chat as well, but there's just a delay from where we talking here on the panel and when you hear it on YouTube. Okay, so share this show. I know it's late. It's 10:46. I was told that it's a a critical game on that a lot of people may be watching. What was the game, Sean? LSU and Clemson.
TU National Championship.
Yeah, the national championship. So, a lot of people may be tuned in to that. And also
What sport, Sean? I don't keep up. What sport?
Yeah, so Clemson was winning until the second half.
Not what's the score? What sport?
Oh, football. I'm sorry.
Okay,
Yeah, college football. Okay. Yeah.
All right, yeah, so it's January, so people are going to be tuned in to that. And plus, it's late, and it's Monday. So we understand that, but share the show. If anybody who is maybe interested in this topic, because we want to hear from everyone. All right, so I put the link. Let me post it again. I posted a few times. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. Come on in here. You don't need your camera, as long as you have a microphone and you can hear us clearly. All right. So while we wait for that, let's go ahead and open it up. So on the panel, what do you have to say in order to kick this off? What's on you all's mind? Oh, by the way, that intro that you all saw, that was the intro. And if you're just tuning in, you missed the intro clip, the intro video. That video was the video that we made right when the brother Sean and the brother Jehudi first became members of the Sesh. So, I figure we do a throwback video. so you all can see, see what that was and how different it is from the intro that we have right now and the intro that we're gonna be rolling out soon. All right, so just trying to buy some time. We got 22,000 people watching us right now, so we are pretty popular. Yeah, and if you tune in and you got some background noise and everything, please make sure you mute your mic. But yeah, if you come in, you can introduce yourself. If when you first speak on the mic, let us know who you are, where you're hailing from, and all that good stuff. And of course, we're respectful over here. We don't do the 5 people talking at the same time. There's no way that the audience can benefit from something like that. And there's not a hostile environment whatsoever. We keep it slow, we keep it cool, but we also like to have fun too. So, yeah. So loosen up, kick back, get your cup of tea, get your biscuits, get your crisp, your potato chips, your muffins, whatever you do. But in the meantime, yeah, go ahead. Anybody on the panel wanna open it up? There's brother Rob Bourne, Allen. Peace to the brother Rob Bourne. Peace to the God.
Peace in the chat. This new Saray, hailing from DC.
All right. I got a question for you real quick.
Yep.
Your name. What is your, well, whatever you can tell us about your name, but what does it mean or where you get it from? I mean, not how you got it, but like what inspired you to use that name or whatever. What does it mean?
So I spell it that way just just for everybody else, knowing that everybody else doesn't understand the language that well. So like, and me either. So, but just relatively better than normal people. So I got it just reading about. So my son's name is Niall, and that was just a healthy medium that me and his mom came to because she was denying everything else I like. So I wanted to have a nickname for him, and so I chose. And I know I would normally spell it like WSR, and then like R with the, I don't even know what that thing is, you know what I mean? But so I say Niusare, and that's what I call my son. So he was a Nisut from I think he was the 6th or the 5th. I think it was the 6th Nisut.
I'm pretty sure it was the 5th. Niusare Ini.
Yeah, New Israel Ini, but he was the 5th pharaoh. I wasn't gonna name the dynasty, so I think he's the 5th pharaoh from the 6th dynasty, or the 6th pharaoh from the 5th dynasty. I get it mixed up, but he was just known for his he was like a great builder, like from his period. They say he's the best. Like when I read about him, so just that, and because my other son name is Cain, after like Cain Waset, so.
Oh, so you all Egypt out, huh?
Oh yeah, because I'd rather be, name them after Egypt. People make fun of me, name them after a bunch of, automobiles or something like that, so, or just, English names. Yeah, so I take that, you know what I mean? And as I'm looking at my daughter right now, Emmy right smiling at me. So yeah, and let's see so yeah, I was just reading about him. And I know Cain, he was the best builder, like way after. So he also went back, and I think he did a whole lot of repairing to things that were like destroyed due to time, or like due to like, I guess, people just coming through and stealing stuff, so he did a lot of repairs. So I saw the connection between the two after that.
Okay.
Yeah, so I can say more, but I'll just leave it there.
Okay, cool. Because I don't know if you noticed, last time you were on, I pronounced it differently than when I first pronounced it, because I wanted people to understand, at least have a little more insight on the name, Ni Wessa Ra.
Yeah, and I appreciate that as well. When I heard you do that, because I heard a lot of people kind of like say it weird, and I was like, I know they probably know who it is, but then I was like, maybe they just kind of like, messing with me because the way I'm spelling it kind of Greek. So, but no, I noticed that last time. Appreciate that.
Okay, yeah,
Go
all
ahead.
right, cool. That's all right. Just wanted to point that out this time instead of me just doing it. All right, so but all right, let's get into it because we have like 30,000 people watching us now. So again, for those who just jumped on, here's the deal. There are many people out there in our communities and elsewhere who believe that the Egyptian text should be interpreted literally. In other words, there are people who believe that the Egyptians believed that what we read in the text should be taken literally. All right. And we know that. So the same thing, and it's not just Egyptian texts. The same thing happens to the Bible. The same thing happens to the Quran. The same thing happens to, I said the Bible, but the Old Testament as well, the Old and New Testament, and even a lot of other books that people may get a hold of. You know, even the Rigveda, the Indian text, people will get a hold of it and read it, and for some reason they will assume that what they're reading should be taken literally. All right, and we know all of this, and so what I wanted to do tonight, was to address that, but that's too broad. So instead, I changed my mind, and so my goal tonight, among other, what everybody else wants, is that I want to solicit precise reasons why people feel that way. So I want to know if you're one of the people who believe that the Egyptian text should be taken literally, or that the Egyptians believed in it literally, then I just want to know why. I want to know precisely why you feel that way. What are you using to give you that indication? Why do you feel that way? So that way I'll have some more precise things to address in the near future when we do address it head on. Okay? Because I can talk about it today and show you all a bunch of things, but I don't think it's going to be as effective until I solicit some more precise reasons. Okay, so that's the deal. So the tonight's topic is open discussion. Matter of fact, I'm gonna put the link in there one more time. Again, anybody is there. Everybody's welcome to join the panel and let your voice be heard. We're gonna pass the mic and take turns and stuff like that. But we want to focus on why people believe in literal interpretations of Egyptian text. So even if you're not one of those people, if you think why some people feel that way, then by all means you can share that as well. So again, I'm gonna open the floor. We have a couple of people in here now. Niwa Sarah is already here. Another person on the phone. I'm not sure who that is, but yeah, if you get the mic and you speak, just tell us who you are, where you're hailing from, and so let's just have a discussion. All right, we'll just go until everybody gets tired. So the floor is open.
Peace. I come under the divine name of Wasser, Rabon Mutu Allah. I come from Akkar, and I'm traveling through the Duat with my brothers tonight. What's happening?
All right, there you go. What's happening? All right, we have.
What's up, man?
We have the.
What's this round 10 now?
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like it's round 10, but I think these conversations are necessary, just to kind of, like I was saying, to pull on some reasonings, some reason why people feel and believe and think the way they think, so that we can address it. Because this year, I'm not trying to keep going around in circles and circles. So I just want to hear from people, because now listen, Rob Bourne. Now listen, with you specifically, I've seen old posts. I don't know if you remember these. Yeah,
I remember you copycat. Go ahead, finish. Go ahead.
Yeah. No. There's some old posts like from 5 years ago on Facebook. That I log a lot of things, especially interesting conversation to me. And man, you had some posts from 2015, talking about some of this stuff already back then, like the monster Amit, the Duat, and all that stuff.
Yeah, we this is not an old. That's why I try to tell you this is not old. But for me, it's a little different because I don't have that lens. I have a different lens. I don't have what you call a need to make anything spiritual because my foundation never was that.
Yeah.
I never believed in a God. I don't believe in the afterlife. I don't believe in no fortune teller. That's not my upbringing. So I don't have a need to do that. I always wanted to understand, like, yo, why are they saying this? Where they get this from? I liked it. And that's why we had our original conversations on when I say that I think these creation stories are dealing with science
Yeah,
and creation.
There you go.
I never came from the aspect of, oh, this is talking about the real God and this, that, and the third. There's some things that's interesting to me. And just this conversation alone, if we look at the Turin Royal Kings list, and we look at that, I'm like, okay, why are they saying there was 36,000 rules of these major netters?
Yeah.
What does that really mean? Is that astronomical? What is it?
Mm-hmm.
And then when I look at it, I'll be like, okay, I can see, I could come up with certain things and be like, okay, when they talk about the afterlife, they talk about these same exact forces there and that they become these things. And I'm like, okay, so it's confusing. We just don't know.
Okay,
I don't know. I don't have the answer.
And that's good. But now I do have a question for you, and
What's up, brother?
It's but I want to keep it in the context of the the topic of the whole show.
Right.
Is like, because you're a 5%. Are you a current, like, you still a member of the 5% or the Nation of Gods and Earth, right?
Yeah, yep, I'm still in.
Okay, so like from you being a member and your experience and your knowledge, and the lessons that are taught with within there. Now, when a person who's not a member, outsider, a person who don't know nothing from nothing, get a hold of those lessons, do you feel that if they read it, that if they took it literally, they would think that you all are crazy? Like if they thought you all really believe those things literally, at least certain points of it, because it's a lot of science in there and mathematics in there, but then there's some things in there.
There's some things in there that people would think you crazy. Yeah, that's why it's given to you in what we say degrees. Okay,
man. So hold up, man. Pause right there, man. Say that again. It's given, because that's important. You kind of jumped ahead. You done made the conversation real short.
Yeah, it's given to you in degrees, and like for me, just from my personal life and what I've been through, there's no way I could believe in some mystery God doing anything, because I don't see it. So when it was brought to me, I was given it in that aspect by a 15-year-old kid at that. He's the same age as me, and I'm like, what the hell are you talking about, bro? He's like, yo, man, this is this is that. This is God is a mind. Devil is a mind. That's not real. And I'm like, whoa, I like this. And I'm saying, and then he brought me in it. But what almost threw me away from it is because of where I got that at, you had to learn these things real quick because you cannot have them in the facility where I was at. And because I was a kid, for 3 years, we only had the foundation. I didn't know nothing about that Jesus was in there, no Abraham, none of that. Then when I got the next lessons and I see Jesus' name in there, and I'm like, what the hell is this? I don't mess with none of this Muslim. What the hell? And then I had to wait till I get to meet the next God to get the next degree to understand what it means. So yeah.
Oh man, that's critical, because it speaks to what we were saying last couple of shows, is that things being taught in degrees, until you get the higher degree from the previous degree, you may misinterpret. There's room for mischaracterization of things until things are explained to you, right? So like how you just said, you got the first degree and you loved it because you got it's the foundation. The mind is, God is the mind, the devil is the mind, and this, that, and the third. But then when you pick up another degree, you're like, wait a minute, Jesus and Moses and all this and that, you're like, hold up, false alarm. But then somebody broke it down to you and gave you that wisdom, and now you can still roll with it. Why? Because it's not literal. Like there's some kind of figurative reality. There's a reality behind those figurative ways that it's given. Whether it's allegory or whatever. But
it's a big problem. There's a big problem with that, even with me dealing with that. And I'm just going to say this: it's sort of to what you said, right? We could translate the text, right, in ancient Egypt, but we're not 100% sure of the ideas because we don't know a lot of what the common people are actually doing and how they viewed it because they don't got no writings. We gonna be dealing with royalty, kings, etc. And then later on to these invader Roman dudes start writing shit. So with this, it is my opinion that the founders of this, like when they believe this stuff, yo. I'm just I can't look at it no other way. I'm like, yo, son, this dude really believes this. You are running around saying this in the public, and you saying that there was a scientist that put dynamite in the earth and blew the moon off the earth. You ain't giving no breakdown that I will give you today, but you are saying this in the street, in the public. I mean, so I'm like, damn. So now if I look at the foundation and the foundation is taking something literal, I got it from somebody else who took that and put their own thing to it. I'm saying like, yo, this mean this. We don't know what this guy talking about.
Yes.
So that's a problem. You see how that's a problem.
Listen, and that same problem exists everywhere. It exists in Kemet specifically. It exists in West African systems where people will mischaracterize it. But now, see, everything you just said, it just shows and proves that over time that can happen. Not that it can happen, but it does happen. Like it does happen because there's some. I'm sure there's some 5%ers who actually take certain things literally when they shouldn't.
Oh, fact, and they be mad as hell at me.
Yeah, and then when you come and say, yo, that's not literal, that's not real like that. This is what it really is. They're gonna argue up and down, especially if they feel like they outrank you or do more than you, whatever the case is.
Oh yeah, I got that. I'll be getting that work. Don't worry, I get touches and all that. I'll be getting it. I'll be getting the backlash.
Okay, so I guess now you can sympathize with ancient Egyptian information, where you have people out here today who have organizations and structures where the same thing goes on, where they may take certain things literal and put things into practice as if it's literal, or whatever the case is, and how that can be misconstrued on both sides. So it's the same thing. It's not just Egypt. It's not just with what you said with 5%. I mean, I know some Nation of Islam members that take certain things in their stories literally. The whole Yaqub, grafting the germs and all that kind of stuff, literally, and you can't tell them anything different. Especially being an outsider. I'm not a member, so they definitely not listening to me. So the same thing happens. So I'm trying to figure out. Okay, let me ask you this then, and then let's pass the mic because I don't want me and you to hog the conversation. But just this last question: why do you think people do that though? Why do you think people will take it literally, even though you know better? Like you know the difference, but why do you think other people take it literally like that?
Because of their upbringing, brother. I mean, it's like most people are brought up in these spiritual beliefs. So, like, I'll just use one concept, God. You know what I'm saying? People will argue that the word wasn't called God. All right, fine. We know that where it came from. But, okay, creator. They always believed in the creator. So when they look at it, they are looking at it in that lens. When you see certain stories, it sound like the Bible, man, or the way it's translated. If we look at that, the book of overthrowing Ra, or a pet and etc. Whatever. I forgot the book of Noah and the overthrowing the pet and Ra. Forgot. I got to push the back. That sound like the Bible right there. You talking about before there was no God, there was only me. I created everything. The creepy thing, boom, and from that point they run off from it. But if you just really look at this thing line for line, they basically telling you, son, that God is all that exists and everything just transforms, son. That's really what it's saying. Now, if you really look at it, I'm saying it's not the same as what you say it is, as far as how you was brought up to believe it. So I think that's why. And they use that as a filter. So like I use as a filter. My thing is a filter. As soon as you start telling me I believe in an afterlife and I believe, boom, you're done. You're lost to me.
Okay, so now
I can't deal with you.
Okay, so now I know I said that was the last question, so this is not a question, but let's take what you just said. So suppose an ancient Egyptian was to time travel in today, like right now today, and they're looking at how people are reading their own text, and they're like you, like saying, like today people like, oh, the Egyptians believed in the afterlife. They believe this and that in the afterlife. You know, this snake is gonna guard the gate, and they got to say a password to the snake. The snake gonna talk, and this, that, and the other. Go to hour 1, hour 2, gate 1, gate 2. You know, and whatnot. And they look at you like,
I believe that was Yahweh. I'm sorry, I still.
But hold up. But okay,
it.
but now check this out. So an Egyptian could look at you and say, nah, son, that we don't, nah, that's not supposed to be like. Just like you tell your fellow 5%ers the same thing, or other people who try to tell you that you believe in something. You know what I'm saying? So that's very likely possible. And so that's what I'm going to be exploring in the near future on how do we make that determination for real? You know what I'm saying? So
I mean, we both talked about it. You put all the chips on the table and be like, yo, how could we look at this? You know what I'm saying? Like, how could we, what does it relate to? You know what I mean? Because we can only use our understanding today on something that was written in the, first and foremost, people don't understand that we talking about a whole different world.
Definitely.
Imagine when you go, if people ever left the country and you go to a different country and you see it, like when I was in Dubai, I'm walking around, I'm going to the bathroom, like, what the hell is this thing here for? They got the thing there so you can spray your glutes and all that and all this other crap. There's different things. It's a different world, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, let's take 3,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're talking about something completely different that we will never understand. You can't. You can only look at what you have there.
There you go. Mm-hmm. All right, so I just want to pass the mic. We kind of hogged it up for a while. So we got people. I'm gonna post a link one more time. I want everybody to come in here if you have, anything you want to share. I see we got quite a few in here now, but hey, all are welcome. So we're gonna pass the mic.
Yeah, I had something to add on to what Bob was saying. I'm sitting writing a whole trying to write down the list of some of the pointers that we're getting from the chat and also on a panel. But to talk about in regards to upbringing. Then I would ask the question, for example, I would take it on myself, looking at my upbringing, which is both, being brought up in, as a Christian, and also having the traditional, the cultural, the African cultural stuff with me. Then I'm trying to think like, so I have both the Christianity part of it and then the African culture part of it, but I didn't take these studies literal. So then what? Is it really the upbringing? And that brings and that made me to think that maybe this is just also my input, that it has to do with the repertoire of the repertoire of the Egyptian text, the literature text that these people who are of this particular belief of taking it literal have. Because then the question is, what is their repertoire of the ancient Egyptian texts? How much have they studied? What type of different texts have they studied in order to kind of gather a complete, idea of what the writings were all about? Because for me, I would think if I was coming in and the only thing I know is the Vunu Perut Hemeru, the Book of the Dead, that would be problematic. Or if I tend to lean towards Egyptian texts that are of that nature, then then that would be my leaning. But because I have studied different kind of texts, my upbringing will not make me think that these people took it literal, because then I understand the different styles of writings that we come across in this text. So I'm thinking that it has to do with their repertoire, their how much have they studied in this particular language, which comes into the mastery point. Because then the other thing, the other input would be just to ask a question: would these same people, what do they think about the ancient Greek mythology? Are they, would they take it literal as well, or would they set aside that type of thinking? And if they did, why? That would be a good thing to kind of find out, because I don't think they do that to those particular texts. But if they do, why? If they don't, why is it that those ones they they might look at it as not literal, and then when it comes to the Egyptian text, they will look at it as literal. So,
you kind of sparked some questions, but I'm a wait. I'm gonna keep the mic passing on. I don't want to hog it, so I'm gonna come back to some questions I may have. But we have some more. Anybody else want to grab the mic. And if the silence is too long, you know me, I'm gonna grab it.
Oh man.
No, I'm gonna keep it going. Keep it going. If again the mic is open, you know. Okay, well let me just say this question then. Because of what you Emicat, what you just said, because it sounds like okay, when it comes down to the Abrahamic belief systems, right? We have Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. All three of those are, you know, under the umbrella of Abrahamic systems. And they say that because Abraham is a common character in all three, and basically all three comes from Abraham. You know, of course they got Noah, which precedes Abraham, and Adam, of course, but basically everything comes out of Abraham, and they call those Abrahamic traditions. So my question is, when those systems were structured and institutionalized as full-fledged belief system, was it then, and it happened before then, but was it then that a change in the way that these different writings and things were viewed, and that at that point it took a more literal interpretation? Like, do you all see that happening, or am I just imagining that?
No, I think it's the number one, the same thing as is in Egypt and all around the world. It is the rulers or the priest class, or we will call them that, are the ones who basically change everything. It's not the common people. It's the people who are actually the ones that's writing these stories. And they happen to be the people in government, because these are the things that govern the population, deals with the economics and deals with everything else. And it's molded into the culture. So when you say, did it change? Yeah, it changed because those people changed it. But like if you're dealing with Christianity, if we look at the Roman Church when they take over, that's one just aspect of Christianity. So it goes back to what the sister, I don't know her name, what she was saying. How much stuff has the person read about the said religion? Or
Right.
are you just reading what the mass population is given to you? So when I look at that, I'm going past that. I'm like, all right, I know there's way more than 56 books. What's in these Dead Sea Scrolls?
Right.
And I look at the Dead Sea Scrolls in Egypt, and now I'm seeing, wait a minute, who is these type of Christians? Matter of fact, this stuff sounds like some African stuff. This sounds like some Kemetic stuff, all kind of stuff mixed up in this. I like this. Well, how come this didn't take into place? Now you have a whole story, so you could pick and choose what you want instead of something that's crafted by the priest class and given to you. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's my understanding.
Yeah. So to illustrate this is like at some point, right, when you read a portion of the Bible, such as the snake talking to the woman Eve, a serpent talking to a woman Eve, at some point there had to been knowledge for the people reading that to know not to take that literally. And then over time there are people who actually believe that event occurred the way it is written literally. You know, I mean, it's written, but it may not have ever been meant for the audience or the reader to take it literally. But of course, today we got a lot of people who actually take that story literally, you know. So I'm saying over time, it seems that certain things were crystallized under a literal lens that shouldn't be. And I'm kind of go back to what you said. Let's take your own experience. Even as a 5%er, when you first read something, you don't know how to take it because you may draw back from it because you're like, wait a minute, this sounds ridiculous. It's not until somebody with other wisdom can take you through that degree. Like you said, it's given to you in degrees. But suppose somebody sidestepped or dropped out and never received the degree of the explanation, so they got to run with their first contact with it, which is a literal contact, you know, through a literal lens. And so that may have been chipped off and broken away, and then that literalism developed and hardened to the point where it became institutionalized, and people believe it literally when they should have never done it in the first place. You see what I'm saying? That's what I meant by it seemed like the Abrahamic traditions, you know, do more of that. You know, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think it's a qualifying thing though. Like if you talk to people, you can kind of tell what they read if you study in this. So like, if I'm like, okay, like if you ask me, why do I believe that they believe this in the afterlife? Now I'm gonna tell you what I read on it. Okay, I read the corporate text, the pyramid text, the book of caverns, the book of Akkad, the book of two ways, and I'm gonna tell you in each one of these things why I say what I'm saying. So now we can have an informed conversation. Now when you talk to somebody that just say they're a part of the Abrahamic faith, they just gonna point one thing out that they saw and they just gonna run with it and be like, look, they was ejaculating and they stuck it in they da 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 da. And then you like, yo, hold up, bro, you don't know what you're talking about. Now it's like an argument. That's what happened. This is what's happening in the community is because they don't read. So they got to put on check. And then you got, what did you read on this? Now be like, okay, yo, let me give you something else so you can see something else. And let me give you something. So the objective is to make sure people are informed and giving the information out. If you're not giving this information out and it's not being like constantly put out there, then people gonna say, keep saying what they're saying, man.
Yeah.
That's my opinion, man.
Okay, so that's valid because, like, you know, you and Emicat are saying the same thing. How much is the person exposed to, and then it's relative, because the more you're exposed to, then the higher chance you'll get to have a better lens of what's meant by the author, or the intent of the manuscript that you're reading. And so that's why I say everything you're saying and everything Emicat said is why I say that Kemet as a topic can never be microwaved. Whenever people talk about Kemet and I see it, I'm like, man, I always shake my head because I always see people microwave it. It's like they don't understand how much work it takes to really, really get into the culture of Kemet the way it was. You know, we're real superficial with it. Like, people want to, make things out to be whatever, and then when I ask questions, they don't know much. They don't read, and everything. And me personally, I always tell people to start with the language. You're going to have to learn at least some basic stuff with the language, because in the mechanics of the language itself, it answers some of these questions, of how the fact that the Egyptians were aware of grammar, which is syntax and morphology. They were aware of logic, and they were aware of rhetoric. Even though the Greeks coined those terms and everything, the Egyptians were very much aware of it and used it. And you can see it right there in the language itself. And knowing that will tell you that most of these texts that scholars put into category of religious texts were written a certain way, and in a rhetorical way that employed tropes, which is a whole cascade of figurative expressions, from allegory to metaphors, simile, hyperboles, and the whole nine. And that's what I'm going to be going over in the future, showing exactly in the text where you can see these things, even in the language. For example, I'm going to give you all an example. The word me means to be like, or like, the word like. And one of our famous scholars, Ankh-Mi Ra, who wrote a grammar in the 90s, Ankh-Mi Ra, and we say Ankh-Mi Ra Jet, it means live like Ra forever. And so even in the language, the word me, as it's used, it sets up a simile, which is, it's a comparison of two things with the word like or as. And that's what the word me means, like or as. And so they can compare item A and it's like item B. That is a simile. That's figurative expression. It doesn't mean that item A is item B, but it's like it, meaning that it's attaching some type of quality or attribute of this item over to another item. But if you take it literally, you're going to think, oh, the Egyptians thought that he was the sun and whatnot. You see what I'm saying? Right there in the very language. And I could point out a whole lot of these things, different things. The Netcher hair construction within the language, where certain attributes are given to body parts as if the person is separate from their own attributes, unlike us today. Like you said, it's a different world in ancient times. They didn't even believe attributes were a part of a person. Instead, they believed attributes were in possession of a person, like they held it. It wasn't them at all. Like us today, I say, I am angry. But in Egyptian, they say you are as angry, or you are like angry, so to speak. And I'm not trying to give a whole lesson here tonight, but I'm saying even in the language, you can see how the Egyptians thought. So when people ask me, I'm like, nah, you gotta slow it down, you know. So anyway, but pass the mic. We have now I can
Yeah.
see
So
now
what
I
did
can see
you?
who was in
So
here.
what
Oh,
did
go ahead.
you? What did you think about that term in papyrus, though? What did they mean when they said that these netters ruled one Horus for 7,000 years, 36,000 years? What that means? Son, break that down.
Man, let's save those questions for another time. Cause seriously, I'm not trying to run from it, but no. Listen, no, seriously,
All right.
because like I said, it's you got to slow it down because though obviously nobody's gonna live 8,000 years and all that stuff. Now, so it has another meaning to it. To unpack that meaning, you gotta cross it because really, and this is for everybody. When you study Egypt, never you 99.99% of the time you're very very safe in thinking that nothing in Egypt is isolated. There's always something else to compare to in Egypt. Like there's always an interconnectedness with different even stories, texts, tales, and everything. There's no single text that stands by itself and this is the only thing and whatnot. Everything is related. Like the pyramids text gave way to the coffin text, which gave way to the books of the dead, which gave way to whatever. You see, so everything is connected in a way. So you have to actually study to
And I agree with you, and that's when we can see when beliefs change because it's documented in a periods.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
but like I said,
there.
Okay, let me give another example. What does if anybody on the panel knows, what does the king Kathmos name mean? What does that name mean? Kathmos.
Kamos?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Kathmos.
I see Kai in there. What you want to call him? Spirit? You know what I'm saying? Spirit something? I don't know.
All right. Anybody else?
Personality of.
Anybody else on the panel?
The bull is born.
Okay, there you go.
Or something like that, yes.
Right. Ka and his name is a word for the bull. And so his name means the bull is born. Now, as a human being, his name is a bull. And so do people really see him as, or did he see himself as the literal animal of a bull? And the answer is no. Now somebody could argue back and say, well, didn't the kings wear bull's tails? Because the kings are drawn or depicted with bull tails coming from their shindit or apron, as people say, and whatnot. You see
that won't be an argument, because if you understand different African cultures and the chiefs and the kings when they wear this type of outfits, even with the leopard skin and all of that, then it's not because they think that they are that particular creature. So again, that wouldn't even be an argument unless they don't understand African cultures per se.
Okay, and there you go. So
you know my hypothesis on this, right?
Nah,
I ain't gonna call it my theory.
No.
You ain't hear me and Ben when you heard me and Ben, we was building about African masks. You remember that?
Oh no. I mean, not particular.
I'll just tell you real quick. This is my opinion. I think that those netters are masks, and that they serve the same way as they do all throughout Africa. I only have one mask I can show, and that's the Anubis mask that they use in the ritual, where they say they put this. We have the actual mask that they say they put on their head. I think those things are masks, man, and that they represent those principles, etc. Why we don't find them, who knows? But that's my because it seems like when I look at West Africa, I look at Central Africa, I look at East Africa, especially the Dogon tribe, with that right there, and their initiation systems and how they dress up and get on the stilts and they recreate these mythical beings and it's talking about the creation and all. I'm like, oh wait, this look like what's right here.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my thing, bro.
Okay, so let's take.
I could be wrong.
Okay, let's take what you. So the essence of what you're saying is that it's not literal. Like that's really, you're saying that along within what you're saying, that it's not literal. Like they didn't believe that they were these animals and so on and so forth, right?
Oh yeah, you could say it in that aspect, but maybe they believed. I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
What usually happens is I know that with different African chiefs, and speaking from East Africa and the southern east part, going all the way to south part with the Zulu, is when you see people doing that kind of stuff, and is because you are trying to display, and this is why they will pick creatures or animals that are known for particular favorable attributes, and mostly will come with their strength, speed, all that kind of stuff that would describe what they would like to see their leaders are. So it's not about, when you go deeper and understand those cultures, you understand that it's about personification, or trying to say that the leaders would like to take on or be seen as having those attributes of those animals, but not to take it literal, that we understand on a continent as so.
Right. So, at the when the dust settles, I think people can understand that these Egyptian kings, or even other African kings that wore the mask and wore leopard skins and things like that, that they did not believe that they were literally those animals, that it has some other meaning to it, and not a literal meaning. And that's why I use Kathmos as a perfect example, because his name is the bull is born. It's really Messiu, but we just say Kathmos. And it means the bull is born. And then there's a lot of kings with the bull in their name, and especially in their Heru name. Like Amenhotep the First, his Heru name is Kawaf Tau, which is the bull who subdued the lands. So he's calling himself the bull, but he's not a literal bull. So there's another meaning, and that's what figurative expressions are. And so there's a type of writing style, rhetoric. They call it rhetoric. Now, today we use the word rhetoric in a negative way. Like, oh man, there you go with that rhetoric. I don't believe that rhetoric. We actually misuse the word rhetoric. But rhetoric is a style of writing to impress upon people's minds of some kind of intent. And in ancient times, the style of rhetoric that they used was the whole host of various different figurative expressions, personification being one that you mentioned, Emiket. Personification, where you personify an ideal or whatnot. By personify, it put into a human form, and then they take the human form and then give it human qualities and things. Like, for example, in a creation story, even though whatever it is that they're calling existence, it's not a human, they will give it human activities. Like that creator thought in his heart, that creator spoke this, that, and a third, knowing that whatever that is doesn't really have a mouth, doesn't really have vocal cords, and not really speaking. That's a personification, and then they give attributes based on that personification. None of that is literal. And this is something that I think people need to pause and take time to study the methods of rhetoric, of how rhetoric. Matter of fact, Rob Bourne, hold up. In the 5%, you have knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. And I know y'all probably say them in a different order, right? Am I right about that?
Yeah, it's in a different order, but go ahead.
What's the order? Knowledge,
wisdom, understanding, culture, freedom, power, refinement, equality, God, building, destroy, born, cipher.
All right, now he gave us the whole thing. But okay, so we have all right, so even with knowledge, understanding, and wisdom, we have to understand that even in ancient Egypt and in what the Greeks developed, knowledge equated to grammar, understanding equated to logic, and wisdom equated to rhetoric. And so a lot of people don't even know that much. And if you were to study that, we would be able to see that, wait a minute, these are different modes of communication that was used. And so people get lost and they take it literally, unjustifiably so, just because, like, and y'all said because it could be their upbringing, the lack of reading, a lot of material, all these other kind of things. So anyway, it's something that we got to work on. But I just brought that up with Kathmos and these other Egyptian kings, and I could list a whole bunch more, but they don't. If we understand that the king did not see himself as a literal bull, the animal, then why would somebody believe that the king thought something else that seems just as crazy? What's the justification? And I see that somebody wrote in the chat, man, it scrolled up. Where did it go? Okay, artificial JV says, Wujao, Christians believe Jesus wasn't an actual lamb. True. They don't believe that he's a lamb, but they believe in heaven. So the bull mask or heads are like the lamb reference, but I'm sure they believed in the underworld. Now, here's the difference. See, we can say that easily today, but until you actually analyze and examine it, in a case by case basis, we really don't know that. Or because I say the Egyptians did believe in an afterlife. I say that all the time. But what is the afterlife is the issue. So what was the afterlife to them? Was it literally the way that we read it? Or is that a figurative way of explaining something else that we may or may not understand right now? That's the difference.
I believe it was a literal understanding on wanting to show that life continues, and they gave examples of it. Saying so, like if we look at it, right, like we take it through a chronological order. If we look at the pyramid text starting from that point, the afterlife was only meant for the kings. It ain't meant for nobody else. Nobody else, the regular person, you get no afterlife. This brings me back to my thing as far as calling people 10%ers. This is what we do when I look at this. I'm seeing now you are maintaining the hierarchy of family and a monarchy rule, even in the afterlife. So when these people die, they get the afterlife. You don't get the afterlife. But in their stories, they're saying that everything has a double. They say the earth has a double, you have a double, everything has a double. They're saying that this same life that you lived here is going to be continued in this aspect, which is why you see the sun, why you see the reeds, why you see that. And them battling these things, like you pointed out, it could represent the same thing as far as taking over enemies and being rejuvenated for an eternity in a cycle. And you could say they go to sleep. Like you said, then they wake back up and it all starts over again. You know what I mean? So like I don't see that. I think that's consistent through everywhere, except when we get to the new kingdom, now it changes. And then when you get to the Roman period, it changes. Now everybody has an afterlife. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And even with them in the pyramid text, I don't want to cut your wisdom, just to stay on what you're talking about, as far as at least knowing the chronology or history of these events to see how things could possibly change. At that point, there wasn't no like judgment for individual morality. It was dealing with those people as far as did they uphold the foundation of their kingdom? Did they uphold the rule of the kingdom according to their concept or principles of the gods? You know what I'm saying? So that's how I see it. It's a government, the same thing. It's 10%ers, man. They know that it's what it is.
Yeah, and to use. Oh, somebody else wants to talk?
No, I was just gonna say another good example is like how in the 5% nation you have women and they refer to them as like Earth, if I'm not mistaken, right? And if you don't really know know that much, you can't really literally take a woman and be like, yo, and think that they're the Earth, you know what I mean? And I know you can say like if I said it the other way, like if you believe you God, you be like, yo, I am God. But when it comes to the Earth part, in terms of women being referred to as Earth, and also in the fruit of Islam, you know what I mean? We think that the people are actual fruit, but and then just responding to what you just said, it being for the kings, the kings might have already been, initiated an understanding. So it might have only been for them so that it wouldn't get misinterpreted from people who didn't understand, personification, hyperbole, and illusion with an A, and all of the other onomatopoeia, just all of the other different things, right? Because we didn't want to confuse them or scare them or anything like that. Like, yeah, so even if it was just for the kings, they might have interpreted and understood. Like, there's no other way for us to. Some things it's hard to describe, right, or to articulate in drawings or for somebody else. So you have to use it just to describe it. Even if they did see something or have something in the afterlife, it's like, whoa, how do we describe that? Only way to describe it for people here who are going to see it is to say a fiery snake, spitting hot fire and, with horns and whatever, you know what I mean? So I'm just leaving it there.
Yeah, and that's another good example. Nobody is gonna believe that a woman, although she's called Earth, is a literal Earth. And I'm gonna tell you, it goes back to a lack of understanding of the speech of how things are communicated. That the fact that there's a lot of people who don't understand that there's different ways of communication, and and I understand why, because nobody's gonna take a college course in semantics or rhetoric like that or pragmatics. But when you do take these courses, your eyes are open to how meaning is transferred, and then you realize that there's different ways to transfer meaning, and you got connotation, denotation, and literal versus figurative. And in figurative, there's a whole laundry list of different things that have been used all throughout humanity. Since humans have been existing, it's been being used, and so we can't just dismiss all of that and then have a default setting to take these things literally. And I think that's a very major big problem. Just like somebody said, Jesus is
That's
not
right, man.
Jesus
You need a filter system, man. What's your filter
There
system?
you go.
Y'all?
There you go.
What's your filter system?
Well, okay. So here's what I say is a filter system. Is a component in the filter system. One, people have to become, first of all, they can't microwave it. They can't think that they're gonna spend a month and read a couple of books and then all of a sudden voila. So it takes a lot of time. Reason why is because the Egyptian culture, as far as chronology is concerned, we are way beyond that. Like, it's 5,000 years old, 5 to 2,000 years in our past. So we're so far removed. The culture was expressed in a language that is dead. There's no speech communities speaking it right now. And it's situated and orientated in a completely different paradigm, because we take for granted that we have writing today. But you got people who are coming out of the age where they could not store their information except by oral traditions. And they had to create these oral technologies to store information. Today, we call those same technologies figurative speech, puns, metaphor, allegory, simile, hyperbole, all the other things I could list. They had to invent that to store information. But then when writing gets invented, now they're transmitting what they were saying orally, and then over time they made better use of writing, because now writing becomes permanent, whereas oral is always fleeting. So they had to think of ways to contain that in mythos and myths and stuff like that. So it's different. So again, to the answer, one of the filters is to study the language, read the text, and take time to understand the different modes or ways that communication can occur. So I would suggest people to take a course on semantics, take a course on rhetoric and things like that, so they can see these different styles and see examples, and then look at the text and see, okay, wait a minute, this is a style of writing. Like, you got the Tale of the Shipwrecked Sailor, for example. That's a very, very popular text today, in the study of Egyptian culture, and it was a very, very popular text in the Egyptian culture itself back then. And in that text, you got this big old snake. You got this sailor who gets stranded on this island, and he's confronted by this big old snake that picks him up with his mouth and put him somewhere else, and then he starts talking to them, telling him a story and stuff like that. Now, are we to think that Egyptians believe that snakes are that huge and they could talk for real? No, because we have to understand the culture and all the cultural elements of that day, why they wrote it, what genre and style and things like that. That's why they call it a tale of Senuhe, tale of the shipwrecked sailor. And then they call these other texts funerary texts. The scholars have these categories because they picked up on it. So another thing that needs to be done is they call it a tropological or tropological analysis of these Egyptian texts. There's been no complete study of the figurative expressions in Egyptian texts yet to this date. But there have been scholars who have been doing it in the past. They're not living anymore, and then some people pick up the mantle and keep it going. But that's an ongoing thing. And what I'm finding is that nobody in our community, at least in our circles, have even read those scholarly works, where people are actually examining the text and analyzing the figurative expressions. So, like for example, Grabhall, which is the same person who's responsible for one of the largest Egyptian dictionaries, he's the first one to do a survey of Egyptian text and pull out all of the figurative expressions in terms of small phrases and single words. First one. But most people have never ever read his work. Don't even know that exists. Or that.
Yeah, man, but that thing in that other goddamn language, bro.
You say what?
It's not in English, and that thing is big as
right.
hell, man.
Right. Yeah. He wrote in German. And that's a problem because his
and I forgot what letter it stops at.
Oh no. That's
man.
right. That's okay. Yeah. You're talking about something different, but it's the same person. So yeah, he writes in German, or he wrote in German, of course.
Yeah, so, but that's what I'm saying. It's all in German, bro.
Right.
Where's the English copy? Where is that?
Okay. So now here's the thing. So when you go to college for Egyptology, for those colleges that offer that.
Ujabo, I want the book, Ujabo.
Wait. I'm saying this. I'm saying this is why when people go to college for Egyptology, they recommend people to learn German and French, because they know that a lot of work has been done and continues to be done in French and German as far as scholars. That's what they write in. But people like us in our circles, we're not going to touch that. One, because we don't know German, and we don't even know that it exists. And on top of that, these scholars are European, so a lot of people run from on based on that.
Now it's official. You
based
and
on that fact
Maroon are the only dudes that I know that look at that thing, and you dudes, I don't know what you do. I'll tell you what he does. He goes line by line and translates it, puts it in translator and check it in the German English dictionary. You guys are crazy. I'm gonna call you crazy.
Listen, but listen, what you're calling crazy is some meticulous, time consuming stuff. Again, that's why I say Egypt cannot be microwave, because I do the same thing. But see, I have people who speak German, so I can give a couple of pages to a person, and they'll translate it for me wherever I need
so that's
it,
what you, that's
and things like that. Right, I do that, and
okay.
I translate it myself. I do both. I try to use everything I can, because I don't know German like that. But so we can do it if we put our mind to it and we put the time to it. Yeah. So
that's the filter system. My filter system is completely different, brother.
Your filter system is y'all crazy, and I ain't having it, and that's just it. that's just a wrap.
Nah, my filter system is just what I deal with in this day and time. Now this is the honest truth. The only reason why I started studying Africa, Bible, and all this other stuff is to verify my belief. That's what most people do. And I'm saying they study other things to try to verify it. So when I looked at the Bible, only thing I was looking at was where they said man is God at. I done damn near read the whole book finding this. Then I looked at the Quran. Then I'm looking, and then now that's forcing me to look in other texts, and I'm like, wait a minute. Then I look at Africa. I said, wait a minute. All these dudes believe in the mystery God. I said, oh man, this concept ain't even African. I said, oh, this is crazy. So it's crazy. So my filter system is, I just love to learn. But my filter system is my lesson. You know what I'm saying? So I look at one lesson. This is my favorite lesson. Who is that mystery God? There is no mystery God. For the Son of Man has searched for this so-called mystery God for trillions of years and was unable to find that mystery God. So they agreed that the only God was man and lost no more time in searching for what does not exist. We know people wasn't on the planet Earth trillions of years ago. I correspond with that last sentence. That last sentence, we lost no more time in searching for that which does not exist. That order of that world doesn't exist for me today. So I don't put that much effort in it. I give you and whoever does that, because I know how hard it is, because I tried to do it and I lost my damn mind. And I'm like, people will go crazy literally doing this. And I'm like, no, I'm good.
So okay, so now so if now that sounds like now the statement you just read, that sounds like a statement that's addressing.
I didn't read nothing. That just came off the head, bro.
No, I mean not read literally. I'm saying
Yeah.
what you just said. That statement, what you just said, sounds like a response to the fact that there are people who believe in the mystery God, right? Because there would be no need to say that if nobody already believed in a mystery God at the time that was said.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's the problem, because obviously there was people who believe in a mystery God, and then that statement addresses those people. But for the people who never believed in a mystery God like that in the first place, that statement don't apply. So then the question comes like, okay, well, if they were to mention something about something that people interpret as a mystery God, now we got to go back and say, oh, well, go back to drawing board. What did they mean?
Right. So to qualify what I'm saying, the next question will be a question comes before that. It says, what makes rain, hail, snow, and earthquakes? I'm not going to answer that. Then it says, what brings rain, hail, snow, and earthquakes? And it says the 10% continue daily to teach the 85% that this mystery God, you will not be able to see this person until they die. No man has ever came back to tell the living whether he lied or not. They continue daily to teach that everything that we see, rain, hail, snow, and all of this, is caused by some mystery God. And you won't be able to see this person till you die, and you will be judged by this person.
Right.
So that's the follow-up question to that. So every question, like you said, everything goes in degrees. Why did you say that? Boom, there's the answer. So my understanding from looking at this Egyptian text, and almost all Africans deal with some spiritual realm. Almost all of them. I can't say all, but majority of the people I don't bear witness. So I'm speaking in that aspect. To me, I'm still until you sit me down and show me something to make me stop saying that they believe in that, then I'll bear witness to you.
All right, it's coming.
I always bear witness to facts. I will bear witness. I know you're preparing something over there.
It's coming.
I know what you're doing over there. And then I'll bear witness. To me right now, they believe in it. And what I'm looking at is I'm seeing multiple people trying to make everything not literal. Like these people, you know what I'm saying, was dealing with the science of magic, if you want to call it that. Now, I mean, you brought up that story. You got the story of C. Osiris and the sealed letter. Know what I mean? So now you're talking about people playing with rods and doing all this thing. We can say it's figurative and look at it. We don't really know. These dudes are talking about this is something that these people really did. They believe in magic, bro. Yeah. I don't have a problem with it. You know what I'm saying? As long as, you know what I'm saying, don't try to metaphysical and say everything. So when I talk to you, especially about this, you basically saying everything is figurative. Nothing is literal. Nothing in no story or none of that. That's what you've been telling me since I met you.
No. Well, no. I never. Well, just real quick. Just to clarify.
Let me pause my mic.
I've never said that. I've never said that because I deal with the text and I can show you specifically things that are literal, and I could show you a boatload of things that are figurative. So I never say that everything is figurative.
So can you do that for me? Show me one thing that you feel is literal. And any other story, what is literal? And don't say maths and geography and science.
No, I mean even no, but see, listen, we say math, geography, and science, but you gotta understand that the way they recorded even science, they did it in a figurative way. And that's what you and I remember. No, listen, no, seriously. You and I started on Facebook on that very point. You were saying that you don't believe this stuff is all metaphysical stuff like that they were talking about science. And I agree with you. I said, okay, yes, so let's build on it.
You try to jump me. Y'all try to jump me. Nah, don't try to change it.
Listen, I still have it documented, brother. I got all the conversations we had. So, but I'm saying that's where you and I started on Facebook on that very point, you know. But my point is that even when we say science, that it's a style of writing and communication that they use, and they were heavily bent on all the different aspects of figurative expressions. It's just that we call it that today, but that was normal to them. In fact, that was required. Like that was the only way that they could communicate coming from a background of being purely oral with no writing. You know, imagine saying something and you would never ever hear it or see it again. You know, we don't have that problem today because we got recording devices, we got paper, we carve, we write today. So living in a world where something you say is always fleeting, like it can never be repeated unless you, the person who said it, says it again, over and over again. They live in a totally different paradigm, and they had to invent ways to keep these mnemonic devices from generation to generation. They had to pass on information so that people won't have to reinvent the wheel, so to speak, to try to explore the same things over and over again. So they contained them in a lot of different variety of figurative ways, put it into narratives called mythos. And that's what a myth is. It's a narration by utilizing a bunch of figurative, variety of figurative expressions, the whole gambit. And there's a lot. Like the most popular people know are metaphors and simile, but there's a lot of different ways of expressing something. You know, there's a whole thing. And we use them today, but we kind of take it for granted. Paradox, allusion, idioms, puns. I think somebody said something before. Onomatopoeias, everything. I mean, there's a lot. Like this is probably about 100.
I mean, I get what you're saying, and I think that is necessary to look at it, because then when you have conversations with Christians, Muslims, then you kind of broaden your approach on how you deal with it. You know what I'm saying? So you like, okay, all right, all of this is not literal. I got it. Do you understand that? And they gonna tell you some stuff is not literal. Do you really believe that Jonah was inside of a whale's stomach for 3 days?
Exactly. You got to ask them that. Exactly.
But you have some people that on that level, they on that degree where they in the belief stage. And then if they keep studying, eventually they're gonna come around it and be like, nah, they ain't dead.
Bam.
What's the name? But that doesn't change the concept, Ujawa, that there are people who believed in it.
Yes. Okay. So hold up. Stop right there. That's important. And then let's pass the mic, because it's a good thing to stop on. That right there. Like I said, there's a fact that there are people in this world who are Christian who believe those things literally. And like you just said, it could be that they stopped their maturing process of getting the explanations. Because listen, if anybody is familiar with Freemasonry, and I always use that as an example because there's a lot of people in our communities who are Freemasons. Even in Freemasonry, it's even if you're not a member, this is some general knowledge stuff. Everyone knows that Freemasonry prides itself on teaching lessons by way of allegories and illustrating them by symbolism. And so in Freemasonry, you got 3 degrees: Enter the Apprentice, Fellow Craft, and Master Mason. In each of those degrees, you get a bit of information, and it builds upon the previous degree. By the time you become a Master Mason, you will understand why you went through what you went through and was taught what you were taught in the first degree, in the second degree, et cetera, et cetera. But if you drop out, if you only become an Enter Apprentice and then you drop out, you're not going to get those plus, those extra, those other degrees, and you're left with your belief. You see what I'm saying? And so the question is, does Christianity, those people who believe in that stuff literally, does that represent a immature degree that people have, but it's just very popular and widespread among millions? You see? Because you got, like, even in Africa, on the continent of Africa, you got initiatory systems, initiatory houses where people were ushered in to be able to be taught these different levels and degrees and things purposely, so that the majority of people won't be in that state. You see what I'm saying? So it's a difference where the church and everybody is like, you're born in Christianity, but you're not being led through a degree process. You go to church, you feel good and whatever, but it's not even taught in a degree way. Like, take the average Christian in a church. I know a Catholic church, they have a 365-day missal. They call it a missal. And they go through the same curriculum for all 365 days, and then it repeats and it repeats. Like right now is January 12th or 13th, whatever. I can go to the last year, January 12th or 13th, and they'll be saying the same thing today as they did 1 year ago exactly, pretty much. You see, because they have this system, but it's not in degrees like that. So like you said, the administrator or the rulers took it and took out that method, that curriculum method, that procedural sequential method of elevating each degree. But in Africa,
that's right. Now you coming home now, son. Now you understand who the 10% are, who teach that the true and living God is a mystery God is the spook in the sky.
There you
coming home, son.
All right, let's pass the mic because I don't want. You see, that's what I'm saying. It's a problem.
Yes,
that's the problem with Island, man. He come on and hog the mic, man.
I just wanted to say that I think the big difference is that, like, the 5%ers, Clarence 13X, he came up with the 5%ers in 1964, right? And so it's a way different time than when, the ancient Kemet, with their system, or with Christianity. All of it was like BC, So what he was teaching he was teaching the opposite, like, because I think it's really, we all kind of saying the same thing for real, except you just kind of came up like with people sort of giving the information instead of taking you through the same antiquated sort of initiation process, if you will. So I'm saying,
we all go through an initiation process, brother. You don't just come in. That don't happen that way, brother.
No doubt. I just said it was a different sort of initiation process, meaning that I'm going to teach you in mystery and allegory, right? And make you go through something to sort of find the light yourself, right? And that in terms of like old ways, right? So it's a mystery God. And then you find out that you are God in a way, right? So you just kind of came in at a higher degree, like, boom, I'm God, right? So you didn't even go through the part like, know thyself or find out, that I am. Or first I'm gonna be told I'm not. Then I'm gonna find out I am. So you didn't really kind of go through. You kind of just went straight in masturbation, right? And you didn't even go through the enter the parenthesis, you know what I mean? And so, and start from 1, 2, 3, and then red house, blue house. You didn't do that. You just kind of came in one level. So it kind of seems strange to you. Like it's like kind of like teaching a kid. You don't even teach them about the mysteries of Santa Claus or anything like that, right? So they don't even got to do the knowledge. You give them the knowledge. So first, you got to kind of find the knowledge and do the knowledge in the old way, but you were kind of just giving the knowledge. So now to you,
yeah, I don't want to cut your wisdom, but I gotta stop you on that point. I'm gonna have to tell you how this works, all right? So yeah, if something interests you, then you want to know about it, and they'll keep talking to you. And then the same thing how everybody proselytizes. Then they basically give you, okay, here's the history of the nation. I'm saying this is the founder, this is what happened. And if you want to go further, then you do your little ritual, which is a fast. Now, when you get your mathematics, right, these things are written word for word for you to memorize. So after this is written for you to memorize, now, how many days your enlightenment gives you, that's different. He might give you 7 days to learn all these things. Now you, at this particular juncture, have to write your own understanding to this and use whatever resources you have at your ability to put it in your own words, so you have your own understanding, so you're not dependent on that foundational part. Once you bring that to your enlightener, he looks at it and he's like, yo, son, yeah, that's peace. Now, instead of me saying what you are all saying, knowledge is symbolic to the sun. You know what I'm saying? Because the sun, it holds things into its position. Knowledge of yourself will keep you grounded. So I say it's symbolic to gravity. I changed it to a different force of nature and made it symbolic. You know what I'm saying? So we all go through that. So I didn't come in like that. I just came in not believing in a mystery God. I didn't know none of that stuff until it was revealed to me. But they made you go through them steps. I just wanted to let you know that.
It's only mystery until you do the knowledge. I think you probably weren't really catching what I was dropping. So I wasn't saying that, brother. Like I wasn't saying that somebody just gave it to. I know the process. You know what I mean? Like I know 5%ers. Like I understand them. Like it's some well-known 5%ers in places where I grew up. But it seemed really, I don't know. I'm not gonna tell you, but it just seemed kind of simple to me. And I love the practice. I really love every practice. I see light in every single one of them. What I'm saying is, it's just an older way. So we're studying something older, and then you opposed to something that came out,
I understand what you're saying. Now I get it.
60 years ago.
Studying 42 years, instead of studying 42 years, to become a priest because I wanted Wujawa to say this. The population in Kemet, was it 3% literate or 5% literate?
I mean, you know, we would be speculating at best, but we do know that as time went on, more of the population became literate by the simple fact that the Egyptians had a name for the writing style of the population called Sesh. And so it wasn't until what people call Demotic during that period of time where more general population of people started to write and everything. So it was a gradual process. It was a wait.
So from the foundation.
But hold on. Let me go back to something you said before. Writing. Remember, writing was invented roughly 3350 BCE. That's what we definitely know as far as tangible attestations, right? But there was a reason why it was invented. It was mainly first invented to record and log commercial things, items, inventory. Facts. And things like that.
Mathematics, baby.
Okay, so a lot of people didn't have a need to use it, but over time, of course, more and more people utilized it because they wanted to store information, say to write it down. So when we talk about the pyramid text saying things that will give the impression that the so-called afterlife was only for the kings, the pyramid text doesn't say it's not for the other people. It's just that it's all about the kings. Because you got to remember, the early writing, it was administratively handled and utilized. It had utility among the royalty and the administrators and not so much the general population. So as time goes on, more and more people found utility with writing, and therefore more people learned it and used it. So by the time you get to the Demotic, the era of time when Demotic was written, Clement of Alexandria, the 2nd century, he saw the general population writing, and that's why he called it Demoticus, from the Greek word which means population. So that's how that happened. So when people ask that, it depends on what era of time we're talking about, you know. But I can say, all I say is it's a gradual thing, and so yes, most people were illiterate. As time went on, a lot more people became literate. So that's
right. So
that's
at the time of the coffin text, at the time of all of them underworld books, except the ones that come in your period that you're talking about, was the people was illiterate. Most people were illiterate, correct?
The pyramid text and things, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. So, whew, whoa, man.
But
yeah,
something interesting.
Whoa, that caught me.
To look at would be, you know how in modern times we don't write as much, but we use computers. So we it's the same kind of as you know with the invention of computers, and during that same period where computers became were put in the market for mass consumption, and up until now we can say how many people are really computer literate, because this is our form of communication at this day and time, you know. So you have to understand that when something when a technology is brought up, a few people will be literate at using it, and a few other people will not be. They might be able to understand a little bit and be able to go by the day-to-day things, but they're not complete, what we say, literate on that particular use of that technology, just like we have now. Not a lot of people are computer literate in that sense, but people can use it but for their day-to-day. So that's just a correlation.
Yeah, that's a good point. When computers became more popular, like even now, if anybody's grandmother is still alive or great grandmother is still alive, they most likely are not computer literate like that. And as time goes on, more and more people become not only computer literate, they could just use Microsoft Word or some word processor. But now the younger generations, they're programming, they're developing apps, they're doing all kinds of things. So there's an evolution to the different forms of communication. It's no different in Kemet. So when people always ask me that, we got to understand that dynamic. We can't just we can't just ignore that. You know what I'm saying? So people got to understand that. But because of that, you rely on people. That's why the people with very important jobs called priests used to recite these certain things that other people couldn't read. and everything. You had what called lector priests at different festivals, people who held the scroll, and read and did all this other kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, there was a priestly order and structure that people had rank and dealt with certain functions. They had certain responsibilities to uphold. And
what about that dance? What about that dance they was doing? It's called the Moo dance, MUU. What about that? What you know about that?
Oh, that's a whole nother discussion. See, you ask. See, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I say when Rob Bourne come on here.
Guys, stay focused. But yeah, and another good example is even when we know about penmanship, when writing in the Western world, there were people with important jobs called penmen, and who had to write documents, write letters for other people, and then at some point that became obsolete. And then when it got to the typewriters, people had important jobs using those typewriters. So that's if you go through history, that's always something that happens. So even talking about the literacy and who could read and who could write, it's irrelevant.
And look at this. This is just a little side FYI. If you even look in modern times, if you look at like within the last 40 years, 30 years, just look at hip hop as an industry, right? The music industry. If you go backwards, you'll notice that behind the scenes of a lot of these companies were women, a lot of women. And there's a reason why women held certain positions, because there was a going away of one industry that women were known to do, and then it opened the way for another industry. So like typewriters or typists, women were known as secretaries or whatever the case is, and typists at one point. And so that door opened up in these industries, and so they became the behind the scene faces of a lot of these different positions. So if you ever look at documentaries dealing with hip hop or other different music genres, you'll see that there's a lot of women involved in a certain lane of duties. And the same thing happens in every culture. And so Egypt is no different, where people will fulfill things when they open up, and as they become utilized and become a utility and out of need and things like that. So, it's still regular human activities. But go ahead.
Not to diverge from the topic, but speaking of women, they were pretty much also the first programmers, handling the computers when they came and being the operators. And if you are looking in the chart, I was making a case for women are actually better at understanding the Egyptian text, because all the ladies, all the sisters in the chat pretty much understand
what time it is. What is this? Is this feminism popping in here? What's going on over here?
No.
You let that slide?
My hypothesis, and that's my hypothesis, and I'm using the chart. I could document that, but yeah, so that's exactly why we definitely need more women studying the Sesh. I know we have a lot of women in this in the class that is about to finish up, so it's gonna be a problem, because we gonna clean that up.
We got the gender wars going now, boy.
Oh man, there's feminism in Kemet. There's a new war in Kamisha.
Oh okay. Boy. No, but let's pass the mic. Let's pass the mic around. I know there's a lot of. I probably missed a lot of comments because I'm trying to include everybody as I can in the discussion. And I know we have some on the panel, and then a lot more in the chat. We got like 66,000 people watching. So yeah, if y'all have comments or questions, I know y'all having a conversation in the chat. But listen, I keep posting the link. Don't be lazy. Don't be scared. If you want to come in, we could hold 100 people in here. We could be 100 deep in here now, and it's only 3, 6, 9, 10 of us in here right now. So, let your voice be heard. You don't have to have your video on. None of us have our video cameras on, as you can see. As long as you got a mic and headphones or whatever, just come on in and let's build. So the more people come in, obviously we got to pass the mic. So I'm gonna be short and quiet. Let's just pass the mic around, because me and Alan been hogging it, and I'm gonna blame it on Alan, of course. But Marquise, you got something? We have Unc Benu. I'm not sure if you have your mic on or whatever the case is, but feel free, y'all.
Yeah, let that brother build. Let the brother build.
Feel free to chime in, but let's also do this now. Let's be concise with whatever we're saying or asking. Just be to the points and stuff. because I want to read some of these comments too, because it's an interesting conversation going on in the chat, and that's what it's all about. So so it's open. We got Morpheus. I don't know where Neo is, but we got Morpheus in the house. You know.
Peace. What's up, family? I'm just listening right now. It's something that I want to add on to. Then I'll jump in. But right now, I'm just kind of listening and absorbing.
All right, cool. And true story, man. See, when Alan or Danny get up in here, boy, that's when the mic gets hard. I can't.
Man, y'all let Wujawa put y'all under the hecker spell, man. I'm telling you, I know what he's doing, bro. I know what he's doing. Y'all don't understand what he's doing, man. I'm here to help you. I am here for help.
You trying to block the magic. You trying to block the hicker, right?
He's giving us the option: blue pill, red pill.
Yeah, the blue pill, real pill. So Alan playing Morpheus, really. Artificial J says, Wujao, would you please address the literal text, or at least top 3 big literal texts? I'm not sure. The literal text. Which text? So I know it's a delay, so maybe you can clarify that. I'm not sure which one you're talking about. But hey, Alan.
Let's deal with the story of Osiris and the sealed letter. What's up with that? You remember that one?
Not enough to like have a full discussion about it right this second.
All right. What about the
hold on. Let me.
Mankind?
Okay, we could deal with that Sekhmet and all that good stuff. But hold up. But first, I want to ask the panel, just the whole panel. How do any of y'all have Theophilo Benga's African philosophy? Okay. That's one person that has it. Anybody else on the panel?
I read it. I don't have it anymore, but I did read it before.
Oh man, you're not supposed to let that go, man.
Man, I ain't
don't come over here talking about the dude. Don't come over here talking about the dude stars and all that. Don't you dare do it.
No. I just want to see who all have the book, and even in chat. That's a question for the chat. How many people have Theophilo Benga's African philosophy? And I'm asking it because this is always a book I always recommend people who are trying to trying to get acquainted with the culture, because Theophilo Benga in this book, he does a very good job at covering a lot of different topics, and going deeper than, the average book that you'll find floating around. It's a really good book to definitely get you going. And especially if you get through it, it's like 675 pages long. But if you get through it, you'll be positioned very, very good to take things further. But so yeah, I'm just asking in general. But there's there's a lot of things, like for example, and this is something that you talk about a lot, Rabon, is like the creation stories. And in here, if anybody has the book, starting on page 60, he talks about cosmogenesis, which is basically, it's like saying the generation of order, which is creation. And he gives a whole commentary of the book of knowing the transformations of Ra and overthrowing of Apep, which is what you mentioned earlier, Rabon. And even when Theophilo Benga starts to give his commentary about it, he's giving you the realities behind what is written figuratively, how the demiurge and stuff come into being before the acts of creation, how acts of creation is broken down into different tiers and stuff like that, and how words like the mind, the mouth, the word was vocalized, and how things come into creation, and how those things are not literal, but it's a way that the Egyptians conveyed complex ideas in a way that people can understand in a comparative way. And that's what figurative expressions are in general. And so even in here, he goes through that. I mean, it's all throughout the book. Then towards the end of the book, he goes through certain letters people wrote, and how people wrote to the dead and stuff.
Wrote to the deceased. Yeah.
Wrote to the dead and stuff like that. How people say, utterances to become a falcon, utterance to become a bull, utterance to become a lion, and stuff like that. None of that is literal, and you know that because if you know the language, you'll know that that prior to that writing, or whatever the date those things are written, it was understood in the culture what those things meant, what becoming a falcon actually means, as opposed to literally becoming the bird with feathers and two wings and stuff like that, a falcon. You know,
But isn't this transformation always happening in the afterlife? If I'm wrong, you let me know, because I ain't read everything. I don't know everything. But the most time I see this transformation is when the deceased or the Ak transforms into these different deities.
no, it's not always. It's not.
Yes.
It's not. It
Okay.
doesn't. It doesn't always take, as far as a place. It doesn't always take place in the afterlife. It's also for the living. You have you read the text where a man is arguing with his own soul? They call it Ba. The argument.
Yeah, I got that. Oh, that's right. Now okay. Now I can remember. What page you want to go to?
No, I don't have it in front of me. I was just saying. I'm just saying,
Okay.
if you're familiar with that text, you got somebody that's arguing, contemplating death and how he's just giving up on life and all this and that, and certain things are said in there, but a man is alive. So it's not always what people think.
I mean, you like man James P. Allen. You like him. See, you on the team.
Huh? Say it again.
You like James P. Allen. You on my team, man.
You say I like James P. Allen. No, I'm saying no. I actually read the text though, so I can I'll pull out the glyphs and start sharing and going in on it. So I'm saying, because these different authors, James P. Allen. Listen. There are different schools of Egyptology. There's a boatload of information written by German Egyptologists that a lot of people are just totally oblivious to, because and rightfully so. I mean, it's in German, so nobody's gonna read that, because a lot of us don't read German. French, same thing. You got a lot of scholarship that's being done to this very day by people who are advancing the knowledge in their dissertations, their journal entries and things like that. But there are a lot of things that
Why
written
they
in foreign
don't?
language.
Why do you think they don't translate it in English though? Why do you think they don't do that? They trying to hide it from us?
Nah.
Let me get some Illuminati something or something.
No. I don't think that at all. It's just that's just they're like, the person who's writing it. That's the language they either speak, or that's the language that they are doing the work in. We, like the Chicago Oriental Institute, they have a whole journal that's free, actually. Like, you go on their website, there's a lot of things you could download from their website free that's in English. You got Breasted and all these folks that they reproduce. And then you got some scholars who will translate foreign written scholarship into English that serve their purpose though. So it's not like it's an all out effort, but it's there. You know what I'm saying? And as a real student, you gotta be able to do this. Like, I have a lot. I have a whole lot. I got German, French. I don't discriminate at all. And you'd be surprised at what's out there already. See, when you research, you got to do a big portion of research is doing literature review. And if I limit my survey and literature review to, let's say, Theophilo Benga, because he's black and I hold him up high, I'm doing a disservice to my own studies and to anybody that comes after me, because I didn't review all the scholarship on any given topic. That's unfair, and the scientists don't do that. Scientists go looking for everybody that ever mentioned this, and that's what you I know. I seen you and Danny do that about African American history. Y'all will go to the daggone newspaper articles that was written in 1658 and published online, and y'all pull things up and stuff like that, because you have to do this literature review. You have to see wherever this is mentioned. Like, for example, the good thing y'all did about Noble Drew Ali. Y'all had to survey and search for everywhere that something is mentioned. And the same thing for every discipline. You got to do that. You can't
I agree with you. Well, you're going to answer one question. You're going to stop running from me, man. Stop running. I need some understanding from you. Listen, what do you think about number mythicism and the Kemetic, writing system with numbers?
Numbers? Well, it wasn't.
Do you think that they, let me rephrase it. Do you think that they put principles behind these numbers?
No, outside of using them as the abstract placeholders and fractions and math. No. There's certain numbers that meant things. Like, you have the Pasejet, which is a 3 times 3, which is see in their thought, 3 was what we call plural, and so the number 9 is as if to say the plural of plural, like we say the Lord of Lords. They say the plural of plural. That's the number 9, Pasejet. And so you got the Ennead. The Greeks call it Ennead, which are these company of 9. So these gods or these deities become the plural of plural, which is another way of us saying a whole lot. That's a lot. And so number 9 can represent that. You have 7, that's significant. You have 3, that's significant. Those 3 numbers are significant. You see, so there are significant.
Anthony West is pseudo as hell. That's what you're saying.
Well, you gotta be specific, because some of those guys they may be on point for some stuff, and then they get out there, like Robert Buvall and that whole crew of people, John Anthony West, Robert Buvall, Thomas Brophy, and all those people. They do have some hits and misses, so I don't just label them as pseudo or anything like that. Nah. But
hey, nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect.
Yeah, and just to get back on topic, I had one more suggestion while you guys were talking. I was thinking about that. One of the other reasons that people might take this text literal might be that how we had with before the decipherment of the text of the writing system. You had this crazy school of thought, like with Athanasius Kishan and Horopolis and all that stuff, that believed that took all the took the glyphs like literal, and they had all these kind of crazy translations and all that stuff that didn't make sense up until people really started to take time and look at the writing system as a writing system and not some magical thing. So I'm thinking also with us, what we experience now is because in the 50s and the 60s, and especially for most of us that are for Black people that were coming into getting time now to actually take the studies of the language serious. When they're coming in, you don't have enough information, and then so the text and the translations that they were getting and all that stuff was a little bit off the left. And then for all between that period up until now, it's like 50 years and up. Not a lot of people, whether they are in the shrines or different schools, not a lot of people have actually done a good job of updating their information or being scientific, like the other groups we see with school of Egyptologists. But for us, it's always just maintained that magical stuff that we had, 50 years ago. So we haven't done a good job of updating our information, and that comes a lot, I would say, from appealing to authority and not correcting information. And really, like, if you ask people, there's different places what they've been studying the last 50 years, how much they have updated. I don't think that you'll find that much work has been done to update their information, that it then gets fed to the masses, like for most of us coming into that. So that's another suggestion.
That's a good point.
Woo, Hey, Woo, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. After learning or mastering, pretty much for the most part, the Medew Netcher, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where do you go from here?
Okay, good question. So listen, learning the language should be the icebreaker, the door opener to becoming intimate with the culture. It should be a necessary and mandatory step in becoming intimate with the culture. And we got to realize that that's only step one, because I can break down the language. I can tell you all the different parts of speech, the syntax, the morphology, all day long, right? But that still doesn't mean that I understand the meanings behind what I'm reading, because we first have to realize that the true or realities is veiled in a lot of figurative expressions. So I can read it, but I have to then probe and pierce the figurative veil to get to the realities. And that takes a whole lot of different skill sets and time to develop and become acquainted with things. I got to put it in its African context. I got to consult with related African languages. I got to consult with related African cultures and what they do today, and so on and so forth. So it takes a lot of time to do it. So what comes after that is is the rest of the journey. So you have to start to take what you know when you learn the language. Now you have to get into historical comparative linguistics. You got to get into semantics, pragmatics. You got to at least get some basic proficiency in that. So, I tell people to take basic courses on that. Then you can come back and re-examine the Egyptian literature with that understanding. And now you can start to piece things together. And you got to get your hands on a lot of the Egyptian literature yourself. And don't rely on previous translations so much. You can't lean on it. You use it, use it as a starting point, but you can't lean on it, because a lot of things that people have translated before, they didn't do the things I just said, you see. And so we're stuck with, what they say. And some people may have taken it literally. Because when you understand a language, you'll understand how translations can differ and why they differ and stuff like that. So that's what comes after. And it's really only for people who are really trying to become intimate with the culture for whatever their reasons are, and most people are not, so they're not going to do it. They just want to know a little bit about Egypt, I guess, to talk about it. Maybe in our circles, they just want to debate. But if you really, really want to get down and know and whatnot, let's say you're interested in trying to practice the culture, then you definitely have to go through the things I said. If you don't, then now, we got to look at you twisted, because either you're irresponsible or you setting up to run a scam, and so that's what people have. That's why I say anybody who's claiming to be a high priest or high priestess of ancient Egyptian culture, if they have not gone through those steps that I said or something similar, then people should exercise caution, because that's just irresponsible. The priesthood is not intact, unbroken. The Egyptian priesthood has been broken, and so we can fill in and do comparisons with living traditions and how over time things change. We have to actually do detective work to piece these things back together. It's almost like taking the Egyptian culture and treating it like the story of Osiris, where he was cut up. And so you got to go out and find all these pieces now and put them back together again. And only when you do that can you say that, hey, now we can pull from it and see what we could practice today, if at all. So that, and that takes time. That takes time. But I want to show y'all something. So let me show y'all. Because I got a question. But hey, I know some people in the chat. I don't know if I'm missing any comments or questions or whatnot.
Yeah, I gotta run off it now, man. But yeah, somebody say I'm doing a straw man argument. I always pop up, man. I pop up with my disagreements, or just to learn or to build and add on, man. If you say I'm a straw man, here's your time, baby. Blow your wind, as Mujahid said, your spirit, and knock me down.
No, what I meant by that was that you just I don't know, it really seemed like you understand, and you kind of messing around because you do understand. I don't know, like I wasn't trying to. That's why I said respect.
I'm the realest I can be. I believe that Kemet got a bunch of spooky stuff in it, and I explained when you ask me what it is, I'm gonna tell you, and I'm gonna say it, and I'm gonna keep saying it until somebody prove me wrong. I put it out there for everybody. I put everything I say out for everybody. This has been going on since 2014, and y'all will know it.
Okay, can I ask you something, Brabon?
Yeah, I think about to die, so I'm not running off, but go ahead.
Okay, I'll do it real quick. But so when you read this text, are you reading the text and then like dissecting them, or are you reading translations? And
I'm reading translations from the authorities who translate, and I compare them.
So
I told you this method, but I compare from, if I have 4 different people who translate a text, I look at it, and there's key words that I'm looking at. to
Oh,
make sure what I'm
so,
talking about.
so you're
I'll use
comparing
dictionaries.
translations.
Yes, and then I'll
Okay,
use
gotcha.
dictionaries that's accepted, and I'll look at it, and then I'll be like, okay. Until somebody tells me that deceased, this don't mean deceased, that this is not talking about a realm other than the planet Earth. I haven't seen that nowhere. You know what I'm saying? So there's other words if it's used in a different context, but specifically dealing with the books that we talking about, the Book of Gates, the book of the I Am Duat, to be specific, what is in the Duat? This is what we're dealing with. So the foundation, as Ujao said, starts at the language. So if I'm like, okay, what is the Duat? What is that? And if I look at all across the board and everybody's saying it's the same thing, what am I supposed to do? I will go ask somebody who knows. So I'll ask Brother Maru.
Yeah, right. So the thing is, at this point, what it seems to be is that and I think Ujao suggested it before, because at this point you are at the mercy of different experts, quote unquote. So you either have to ask this expert or ask that expert, or go with this expert or go with that expert. So they have to do the thinking for you at this point, and you have to choose who to believe in, quote unquote. But I think Ujao suggested that at some point, if you really want to understand it and deduce them by yourself, and I think that's what even prompted most of us to actually take on the language, is because you will have to, if you really want to. I'm not sure. I'm not saying that because maybe you're interested. You might not be interested. So but for anybody else, like there's two options. You have to let the experts do the thinking for you, or you have to take up the language and then dissect it.
I mean, this is the same argument. This is the same argument you're saying. So if I'm going to the Egyptologist, then you're basically telling me that all of these renowned Egyptologists don't know what they talking about.
No, forget that. Nobody. No.
This is what I'm saying. This is what I'm going to. These are the authorities. So
that's fine too, but I'm just saying.
No, listen, wait, hold on, listen. It's either you're telling me that they are wrong and I need to go see the expert. No, listen, this is what I'm getting off what you're saying. I need to go to your expert.
No. I said they are experts. So there's different groups of experts. We said there's different schools of Egyptology. So whoever is studying the languages deeply are the experts. So you either go to those experts that you're going to. What I said is, at this point, there's only two options really. You either have to pick an expert, whether they are those Egyptologists or Baba Hiru, like you're saying, or whatever it is. You have to let the experts do the thinking for you. Or option B, you have to master, be at the driver's seat and understand the language, take up studying the language. So those are the two options.
I got what you're saying. And the way that we decipher the text is from these same exact people. And this is how we learn.
I got a question.
They all come from the same people. So what I'm saying is this, right?
I got a question, though. Let me ask you this question, Alan. I can make it simple.
Real quick before my thing cut off.
Okay.
If we study in English, I don't look in the English dictionary for a definition and I see it's the same across the whole language. And let me go to the origin of Latin to see where this. I don't do that. Everybody looks at what's going on. If the consensus say that these people been studying before me and you was born and longer than anybody on this panel, then I'm gonna listen to them.
That's fine. That's what I'm saying. You have to just pick that. Go with those experts.
Wait, no, I got a question.
All I'm saying.
I got a question that will simplify what you all are saying. So, Alan, I got a question for you. So let's say that you're trying to find out something about Egypt, and you have Scholar A and Scholar B's books, and so Scholar A, like you have a question and you're researching. So in Scholar A's book, you find this is the answer. Scholar B's books, because you say you like to compare, so you compare it to Scholar B. Scholar B says something opposite than Scholar A. What do you do in that exact situation? Oh man, I think his phone dropped off. That's what I wanted to ask him before. I knew he said his phone was gonna die. I wanted to get that question there because that just kind of sums up. I want to know what would he do in that situation when and see this is the problem that this is why I say Egypt cannot be microwaved and that's a good point that you made, Emiket. But I wanted to put it in a more simpler question though, and say, okay, scholar A says 1 + 1 is 3. Scholar B says 1 + 1 is 2. If you don't know how to perform the math yourself, you're in trouble, because now you got to be like, okay, you don't know which scholar is right. So you have to go extra scholar. You mean you got to go beyond the two scholars and learn to do the work yourself, to have some kind of wherewithal to be able to discern which one is right, to be able to look at their work, see how they came to their conclusions, to be able to do things.
I've been saying that for years. I've been saying that same thing for years, right? And I used to sit up and think about all the books, right, that I read, right, or I have read. And I should say, you know what? I know that all the books that you read, I don't know if you realize that you're actually subject to someone's commentary. So someone else's commentary. So until you do the work yourself, like you're saying, that you can be able to discern yourself, you're always going to be subject to someone else's commentary.
Right.
Exactly. And so it really boils down to, and I see some questions in the chat. So if Emicat and June, if y'all could keep your eye on the questions, I want to come back to them. But it boils down to, when you're in a position of two opposing options, what do you do? How do you discern which option is correct? The only way you can discern is if you become proficient or gain competency in the subject matter, so that you can put your mind to it and actually do the work behind those two people. And that's what Emicat was relating. And that
was a perfect example. That was a perfect example.
Right.
They're going to have to do that.
Because at this point, he has to let other people think for him. And then you have to go by their word. And that's pretty much it. So then it kind of, the discussion becomes really, really, like, it just becomes, I don't know the other word to say, but useless at this point, because you're not even when somebody in that level, when you're trying to have a robust argument, it becomes, or discussion, it doesn't get to that level, because no matter how you're going to explain, they don't have the tools to discern already. So it's like talking. So it becomes it's of no use, or it's of little use. Let me say that, because that's not the right word. It makes it seem bad. But yeah, that's, at this point is that there's people who have to, and there's nothing wrong with letting somebody think for you, because like if I'm not an astrophysicist, I'll have to take the word of an astrophysicist, because they do that study. So I cannot go and argue my points, like, because I don't understand. So I'll have to take the word. If they say the moon is like this and all that, we have to take their word. So, but then there are a different set group of people who can actually sit and have a different kind of conversation, because they literally study that. So then the conversation becomes very, very different.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so
you know what? That's the problem with today is today people don't have teachers, right? And there's something missing in that a component of not having teachers. Because everything nowadays is on, right on the computer, on your phone or whatever. So you just have a overload of information, and you know what I mean. But you don't have no teacher. People are not in settings where they had, like, years ago, you actually sat and you learned, right, on how to get to, you know what I mean, to a certain point, right, or to be able to question something. But you learned for years before you actually, got to the point where you could think. You know what I mean? But right now, it's like there's no vanguards. There's no, it's just wide open. So that's why people are. But
now, Morpheus, that's a sign of the times, because that's happening all across the board. Like, there's no vanguard. There's no vanguard for music. Now everybody can produce. Everybody can rap. Right. Everybody could do this. Everybody could become a teacher. Everybody could just get a YouTube channel. Everybody could get an Instagram account and just do whatever and become popular based on just what people like, and it'd be for all the wrong reasons. But hey, we got 20 more minutes. So for the 20 minutes, I do want to get some feedback from people on this question. Whether
we have a question in the chat though.
Yeah, But I'm going to put the question out there and give people time to respond to it while we're talking and answering the existing ones. So here's the question for everybody in the chat. Do you believe that the ancient Egyptians literally believed in the various different texts? Literally, do you believe the Egyptians believed in, for example, of a literal monster that is half crocodile, half hippopotamus, half lion? Do you believe that the Egyptians literally believed that an eyeball can fly around and has wings? Do you believe that the Egyptians believed that the kings were actual bulls? Do you believe that the Egyptians actually believed that they're human beings that have falcon heads, scarab heads, ram heads, frog heads, snake heads, lion heads, etc., etc.? Do you actually believe that? Do you believe the Egyptians actually believed that a human being can wear a cow's horn and harness the actual star that we call the sun between those two horns, etc., etc.? So I want to hear from y'all. Y'all can respond to that. But I had a picture up here, and I'll put the picture back up here. This picture right here is the it was referred to as the bull palette. All right, and it dates all the way back, similar to the time frame where you have the Namers palette and other palettes like this, where the king is depicted as a bull that you see right there on the palette. Now, my question is, does anybody in the chat or on the panel, do you believe that the king actually believed that he was literally a bull? And if the Egyptian people literally thought the king was literally a bull, that animal, that was the king? And so that's my couple of questions, and I'm gonna wait for people to respond. But I don't know who all had questions before. I think Melba had
had a question. I can read it out before she leaves.
All right.
She left already. She said, "What about the blessed fields? How might we interpret those figuratively? Aren't those available to more than kings?"
Yeah, the blessed fields are. So yeah, that was a quick one. Yep. So, yeah, it was available for more than kings, but the issue about that is that in the early writings you only see conversations where the subject or the focal point was royalty, and so people are under the impression that it's only for royalty because only royalty was spoken of in these early old Egyptian texts, such as the pyramid texts and things like that. All right, and later on, you see other people being mentioned and other artifacts being found where it involved the average or non-royalty, I should say. We had the Raunu Peret and Heru, which is the Book of the Dead, and some coffin texts, which were for non-royals. And so people are in the assumption that, okay, it was for the kings at first only, and then later on non-royals and things like that. So that's why. So hopefully she heard that answer before she left. But like I said, we got 15 minutes, so I'm just trying to get. So I see a person in the chat, BC. BC is had a comment on. Let me see if I can scroll up, because BC has a lot to type. Okay, as far as I can go, I'm trying to address. I thought I saw some of the question, but I guess the oldest thing I see BC says is, "Man, a lot of you all are just parroting what Wujao was saying, acting like you understand how it's only figurative." Okay, I don't really know what that means. Like you really studied Egypt on your own and knew it was only figurative. Okay, I don't.
Really he's in his own world, so I didn't see any constructive questions. He's just making comments.
Okay, all right, alrighty. All right, so yeah. But anyway, so that's a picture of a bull that I got on the screen, and here's another picture of the Namers palette that I mentioned before, and you see a king at the you see a bull at the very bottom of the right side of the picture, where the king is defeating his enemies And even on the battle palette where you see the king defeating the enemies. So do you think the Egyptians took that stuff literally? They thought the king was a bull. After all, the king wore a bull's tail. You know, you see images of the king with a bull tail. Or is there another meaning behind these things? That's the intended meaning. So I think Alan back, but listen, Alan, we got like 13 minutes left. So I know we kind of hog the line
There's
a bit.
one question.
I told you we gotta build one on. I told you we gotta build one-on-one, man. You be running, man.
No, not at all, not at all. We could we could do that for sure.
Somebody is asking on the chat, do the Kemites describe how they built the pyramids?
You said, did they?
Yeah. Do the Kemites describe how they built the pyramids?
Nah, not exactly. No, that's why people are coming up with all these, a lot of hypotheses on that. If they described it, that would put an end to a lot of the speculation. So no, there's no text that has been found to date that say how they built it. No. They just recently, when I say recently, relatively recently, found the workman camp. The barracks where a lot of the workers lived, and things like that. That was like relatively recent for them to find that. One thing for sure, we know slaves did not build that thing. Hebrew slaves didn't build it. That's one thing that you don't have to worry about anymore. Hebrew slaves did not build the pyramids. All right.
Yeah, that been put to sleep.
Yeah, we could do a process of elimination, but as far as a text saying how they built it, no. If it was, man, that would be beautiful.
That's like, hey, we'll look in the back chat what I sent you. I was reading that, and that goes to the question that you asked a minute ago.
Okay. Yeah. Let me. Yeah. See, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do a presentation on this stuff, but I'm trying to solicit some more precise reasons why people believe that it's literal. And so far I'm not really seeing people say it.
Everybody's not going to show up, Ujao.
No, but I have 8.
Yeah.
I did actually write a few, but from the chart, I have 8. But from the chart we had from the very beginning, some people did write. Like somebody said, they don't like the language. They don't live the language. They use the translators. So maybe that's why. And then there was one also. They are looking at it from Western lenses. That was from Senate Amber Evans. So, and I think there's more, but we covered most of them. But yeah, there was a few. So I think it's like 7 in all.
Well, I want to know if they, when they read the stories themselves. Cause see, here's another dynamic to it. If I pick up the Bible and I read it, if I take the story literally, if I take the story as if the intended meaning was literal, then that may fall on me. The mistake may fall on me. The author may have never intended it to be taken literal, but if I read it and I don't know that, and then I take it literally, whether I reject it or accept it or not, if I take it literally, then that's an error on my part. So you have that going on too. So for example, if I pick up the Bible and I read that a man jumped out of a boat and walked on water and his name is Jesus, if I take that story literally, I can say to myself, yo, that's crazy. Nobody could do that. I'm rejecting Christianity. Is a spooky thing. Y'all, that's spooky. And I can reject it. Or on the other side, I could read it and believe it. Be like, oh, wow. The Son of God walked on water. Both of those people are wrong. Both of those people erred. The one who believes it and the one who rejects it. Why? Because both of them took it literally. It's just that somebody rejected it and another person accepted it. but both of them can be wrong, and that's a lot what's going on now, and it's widespread where even like with what True Story just said, a high percentage of people believe that a man rose from the dead, you know what I'm saying, was nailed on the cross, died and came back and walked on water and all kinds of things. There are people that do actually believe that. You know, there's grown folks that believe the earth is flat. There's grown folks that believe that there's, you know, that the sun is really a hologram in the sky and that the real sun is in the center of the earth. You got people who really, grown folks, functioning adults that really believe these things, you know. So
belief is deep. Belief is powerful, man. Belief is real powerful.
right,
Yeah,
it
that's what I
is.
was saying. Like, imagine like some people they will literally bomb themselves and other people in their surrounding just to go to heaven, and and get virgins and all that stuff. So when people take scriptures literally, like it's crazy, but people can take it to that level where they'll die for it and kill for it.
But you know what? Here's the thing. Check this out. Because we wind it down, right? Every time you go to sleep, you don't know that you're gonna wake up. All right. Now that seems like a real simple statement, but I mean that's a real deep thing if you think about it. Every time you go to sleep, you don't know that you're gonna wake up. So every person that goes to sleep, they have to have faith. They have to trust that there's gonna be a tomorrow for them, that they're gonna wake up for them the next day. Think about that. And so you can amplify that trust and belief that people do at the end of their life and say, okay, well, if I don't know that I'm gonna wake up the next day, but yet I gotta have faith when I lay my head down because I'm breaking down, I'm tired, I gotta shut my eyes and I'm going to sleep. I don't know if I'm gonna wake up the next day, but I'm gonna have faith that I am. And they really have no choice, but they go to sleep and they wake up. And so people take that concept and amplify it and say, okay, when I go to my final sleep called death, I'm gonna wake up into a so-called afterlife. So it's faith. Nobody came back from there to say, yo, it's real, but that's the faith piece because they amplified something that they actually do experience, waking up the next day.
Let me get. Wow, Javo. So since I came back on here, you said we had 13 minutes, so we should probably down to 10. I just want to get down to the point of this whole matter, Mr. Wujabo. Because everybody's scared to come on here to talk about it, like True Story.
No, what you think about what I just said? Like think about
I
what
think what you said it has valid points with it. I'm just saying this, brother, and it's real simple. I'm not even trying to make it this deep, bro. It's just straight answers, brother. Did the Kemetic people believe in the afterlife, bro?
Yes.
Okay. Did they describe what they believed was in the afterlife? Yes or no?
Yes, figuratively. Yes, figuratively.
Oh, okay. All right, so now we in agreement. So what's the problem here?
There is no problem, brother. Welcome.
Yeah, you asked him the same exact thing on the other show, and he told you exactly the same thing.
But I'm going over what you said, sister. You telling me, yo, you need to read the day grid. This is the only option, and you should do this, and you should do that. And I'm coming to the same conclusion that this brother does that read it. So he's the expert, supposedly, on this panel, right? He reads it. So I respect people that I respect people that really study the things that they believe in. Like there's certain Hebrews I told to. I like Cesario, even though he talk crazy. That dude know that Bible. He studied that, so I can talk to him just because he believe in that madness, but he not playing with that. He really study it. My brother Courtney Thompson.
Don't make a mistake. Look, that don't mean Wujawu believe it.
Yeah.
No. We not talking believing it. The whole point of this whole discussion of how this whole thing is brought back up is because I made a big statement and I told these dudes really believe that, and they using figurative language or whatever you want to call it to express what they believe. Just like 6 billion people on the damn planet almost do the same thing. We can't say that. Like there's Muslims that make a figurative way of what the afterlife is going to look. We all know from everybody who read the Egyptian text that they put everything that was in this life and that life and put other things in there that's superstitious or whatever you want to call it, shit that's not real. Animals with 3 things, serpents with heads, and all kind of wild stuff they got to go through. I mean, so at the end of the day, that's what we saying. It appears, Mujawar, that you trying to take the spooky away.
Nah,
That's what
see,
it is.
see,
No, no,
see,
no,
you
no,
read,
no,
you
no,
read
no.
a good. I'll let Ujao answer that because you asked him.
No. I
That's
don't
what
want
it
to.
appears, Mr. Bujawa.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
No.
That's what it
Because
appears.
no. Because it only appears that way because of the current climate of the conversations, and you got people who will try to put some things into practice today. So because
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Because like for example, because really this conversation in terms of like recent, it came up because you have the members of different organizations, shrines, temples, and stuff that are doing certain things that people are questioning. That's really where this conversation are coming from. So no, I'm not trying to take.
So you trying to take my title? You trying to take my Wasabi title from me already, bro?
No.
Really?
No. But listen, but just to be really clear, the two answers, because I want to make sure people heard me to your two questions. Yes, the Egyptians believe in the afterlife, and they describe what went on in the afterlife. I answer yes, figuratively. So I just want everybody to understand that. And I always said that. I've on record saying that since the very beginning I started talking about it. The problem is people don't want to dig deeper, and I understand it, but at least people just got to be honest and say, hey, okay, I haven't gone that far to even begin to try to see if they meant it literally, figuratively, and if figuratively, what form, and blah blah blah. As long as people are honest with that, I don't have the problem. I don't have no problems at all, none at all.
All right. I need you on the record to say that Egyptians have spooky beliefs. Say it.
Listen, no, I'm gonna say this. I'm not gonna say the Egyptians as a whole blanket, but I'm gonna say this. I'll answer it this way. Every single culture on the planet has superstition in it to this very day.
I've been saying that for a long time.
Correct.
I've been saying
Fact.
that.
And you should have been on the show, man. We was going into the culture. This is a throw-off of Mr. York. So we had Chuck Morgan on there, and we was talking about the effects of everything on the whole culture. So you up next. I just heard about you, Mr. Studio Man.
Oh yeah. I don't mind that, and Morpheus probably joined in too, because Morpheus.
Yeah, he was there too. I didn't even know he'd been down since '79.
Oh, he was.
This dude been around. He been around before I was born. This guy been around.
Yeah. So just so we clear, because I want you to start winding it down. I was trying to get some answers in the chat, and I think I got some. Some people basically. It says, okay, BC, you can't just say it's figurative because you feel it is. Wait a minute. I'm trying to follow. Let me see if I can clarify some things for others. BC, based on.
It's gonna get you confused.
Okay, yeah, I don't want to confuse anybody else. Based on what rule are you determining that it's figuratively believed? You can't just say it's figurative because you feel it is. That's a very good point. No one can say it's not figurative because they believe it's not either. And so what it is it's a matter of competency in the study. Like, you cannot microwave Kemet. Nobody's gonna come around here, at least while I'm present, and gonna pretend to say that this is what it is just because they feel that way, whether it's for or against, up or down, left or right. You're gonna have to show your work, just like a math problem. Like no math teacher is gonna give you a math problem and accept just your answer. They're gonna want you to show your work, and so that's what I demand.
You have to qualify your statements.
Right, that's what I demand from other people, is show your work.
Donnie C, how many hours and shows does it take while born to ask the same damn question? Oh, that's a good question. I jumped in the conversation, and this is what they was talking about. And when we building, this is what's coming up. That's what it is. What you want me to do? Change it? Don't worry. I want to talk to Ujawa about a whole bunch of stuff that's not normally talked about. And he'd be like, nah, I can't do that right now. I brought up a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, we're going to, because that's what I'm saying. We're going to get through a lot of these topics, in future shows. Like right now, I'm dealing with the language. So I got a project that's pressing for me.
Oh, okay.
But because I'm not trying to just talk just a chit chat type of talk. I'm trying to talk to where it could help people, point them in right directions or cut down on some of the silliness and craziness that's going on.
So now I'm putting you on the clock like I put Maru on the clock. Where's the African Comedic Dictionary? What you gonna do about it?
You said where's the what? The accurate comedic dictionary?
Where's that African Comedic Dictionary?
Oh,
I'm
African.
putting you on the clock, just like Maru. You on the clock? What's up?
Okay, well, that's being developed. That's
Yes.
being
Okay.
that's being developed. Matter of fact, Asaramotep is publishing a beginner's stage of that process. He's coming out with a comparative lexicon right now, and before the month's out. Yep.
Yeah, and this is why I think Wujao always talks about like the level of conversations we're supposed to have, because like we say, like there's a lot of work to be done, and it needs more people. Like even just creating the dictionaries, you need teams. We can't even get together and translate some of the books. Like we have Boli's book that we can't even get together, get funds, get all that to try to translate that just to basic English so everybody else, the masses, can understand. We need, like if you've seen our curriculum, we need more people because there's a lot of work to be done, and it goes beyond just having this basic conversations. You got to speed things up because, like Ujao said, with all the different schools of Egyptology, we are behind. We are late in the game, and we coming in, and sometimes it kind of gets frustrating when we still talking about like just mundane stuff that doesn't actually add anything to the bigger picture or has already been
Sister, you
discussed
sound like a
and
10%er, sister. You sound like
No,
a 10%er.
right now I'm just saying in regards to the language anyway. But
Yeah,
so
people. There's a
there's
lot of people. Believe it or not, there's a lot of people that watch your shows or listen.
yeah,
They
so
just don't comment. They want to learn. How else they
yeah,
gonna
let me
learn?
finish.
If it's not being talked about, then they gonna learn. You want to stay in a little bubble and be like, don't talk about it with the people?
No,
Because
that's
you
not
want
what
to translate?
we're not trying to translate.
You just said that these conversations are mundane because you have other stuff that needs to be done, and this is a mundane conversation to have.
If you let me finish,
this is
I
what
think
you
the
just said.
point would be clear.
Go ahead, finish it. Wait, let her finish her statement.
Okay, what I'm trying to say is that we have a lot of work to be done. What I'm saying is a fact. We are latecomers in the game. So when we're trying to get more people to learn the language as opposed to discuss what we believe in. You understand? So that's what I'm saying. So we need more people to actually learn the language, take it seriously. That's just what I'm trying to add into what was being said before. Because like you talked about the dictionary ain't gonna make itself. So like I said, so we need people to learn the language. We need more people to be putting a lot of input. But what we see a lot is, time taken. A lot of time is being taken by some people who could actually be doing that work into just explaining things that, shouldn't be really like that should just be like already common knowledge, or for those who want to understand more.
Common knowledge.
Because listen, like how you came here, like somebody actually said, and that was a fact. Like the questions you asked today, you asked in the other show. The same answers Mujao gave you. He already gave you the same answers today.
Hold on, wait a minute, sister. I came on here talking about the conversation and was talking about something, giving different examples about different things. That was the question that was posed. Why do people believe? This is the same conversation or the same question that's being addressed. Why do people believe in Egyptian texts as being literal? So I came on here and gave my understanding. What you're saying is, if you want people to be enthusiastic about this, people have questions.
No. People are already enthusiastic. The enthusiasm is already there.
No, I'm just saying, no, it's not there because of what you're saying. I'm saying, like, if you're saying, like, yo, to have these conversations is mundane, we already did this. You say this every show.
No, the methodology is what is lacking. The enthusiasm is already there.
And instead of focusing on what we believe in, these are questions that the average person has. This is a deep conversation, as the brother said, it can't be microwave.
Okay,
I'm gonna let you do what you do.
Yes, what I'm trying to. That's all right. Listen, I'm just trying to say the enthusiasm is already there. The methodology is what is lacking, and that's where we come in. That's what we should definitely be focusing with people who actually want to, because they want to learn. They are learning something. They might just be learning something different or a different way of looking at it. But then the methodology has to be put in place. Like, how do you ascertain that what you're getting is correct?
Okay, so listen, I want to show
all right,
this.
that's peace.
I want to show this. So let's I want to show this picture right here because somebody asked in the chat. A lot of people ask this, right? And it's a valid question. So I'm going to show something very simple. I'm going to be very simple with it. Okay, somebody asked basically what I read, you know, how do you know that certain things are understood figuratively and whatnot, and things can't be figurative just because we feel it. All right, so I'm going to show you an example. When you look at this image of this individual right here, do you see a bull? Does anybody on the panel see a bull when you look at this image?
No.
No.
Okay, and I don't want to wait for the chat because there's like a lag, so I'm not gonna really ask the chat, but I'm gonna ask it, but I'm not gonna wait.
No.
So hopefully nobody in the chat will look at this picture and see a bull. All right. So does anybody in the chat see a bull? I'm gonna go ahead and ask. I want to see answers. I want people to commit. Don't be scared. When you look at this picture, do you see a bull? Yes or no? Do you see a bull?
Yes, I see a bull.
I knew you were gonna say that. That's why that's see, you spooky. All right, but look, okay, BC failed to answer. Instead of answering, he says this is a terrible example. And see, this is what I mean. See, people don't even allow the teaching experience to unfold. And that's a problem. That's somewhat what Emiket is talking about, because the methodology is not there. I'm showing an example. Like the person asked me a question, and see, I'm trying to close the show down, but I can have a show and go point for point, and show many different things. And my first question to a person like that is are they able to read? Because the thing is I can show many things, but they will have no idea whether what I'm saying is right or wrong or whatever the case is. So in that case, they either gotta take a student position and just observe and take notes and then check and verify and stuff like that. They don't have to believe anything I say or whatever. I wouldn't even want them to, but then they have to develop the skills to be able to check behind me. And most people don't have those skills and not even looking to even gain those skills. So it's an issue. So it's not just for him, but it's for everybody. So you don't see a bull right there. Okay. You do not see a bull right there. So now, who is this? And I'm gonna go on a long shot and ask anybody on the panel or in the chat, who is this? And I know it may be hard because this could be anybody, but somebody,
Isn't that the same person you brought up earlier?
Somebody may know who this is. Nah, it's not. That would have been too easy. No, it's not Cosmos. Nah, or Kamesiu, which is what his name is.
Mental Hotel?
No, that's close.
Lives.
That's close because he's seen in a similar. A lot of kings are in this position. Of course, they call it the Osarian pose. All right, everybody guessing now. I mean, it's cool because somebody may get it right.
Amenhotep.
There you go. Yes, Emiket's correct. So this is Amenhotep. All right, I want everybody to understand this is Amenhotep. Now, the only reason why I say this is Amenhotep is because his Sarah name is Amenhotep. And that's the name that we know him by because of what scholars did. Scholars log these kings by their family name. And so when we say Tutankhamen, we say Hatshepsut, Thutmose the first, the second, the third, Amenhotep the first, the second, the third, etc. Those scholars have etched in our minds only the family name of these individuals, not the throne name, not the Heru name, not the Falcon of Gold name or the Nebti, two ladies' names. But this particular king we know as Amenhotep, all right? But his Heru name is here. I'm gonna bring this down so y'all can see. His Heru name is Ka Waf Ta'u. That's his Heru name, okay? And that name means the bull who subdued the lands. So I asked y'all, when y'all see him, do you see a bull? Everybody but Alan said no. And so, but his name is the bull. He is the bull that subdued the lands. Now, is that figurative or is that literal? That's all I want to know from the chat. Is him being a bull who subdued the lands literal, or is that figurative? That's all I want to know. All I want to see people type is literal or figurative. What say you? What say you all? All right. So I know it's a gap of time, so I'm gonna wait for people to answer that. All right. This is an example of a figurative expression. All right. So Niwa Sarah says figurative. Emmy Cat says figurative. I'm waiting for somebody to say literal and not be playing with it. Everybody should put.
That's like me calling somebody a beast. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there you go.
When they say, so-and-so's a beast, yo. I don't mean literally he's a beast.
Exactly. Okay, so pretty much everybody understands this to be figurative. So again, when somebody comes along and says things like, or asks the question like, how do you know when things are taken figuratively? This is how you actually go through real examples, as I'm doing. This is a very simple one, but yet it's an example. It's unfortunate that whoever BC is thinks it's a poor example, but it's not a poor example. It's a perfect example. And I could show many other examples where things are obviously figurative. Okay, because I can get very detailed within the language and show you the grammatical constructions that tell you that it's figurative. But before I do that, I would have to ask you, do you understand the grammar of the language? Because otherwise, that means I have to teach you grammar before I can even explain to you those grammatical compositions on how we can tell this figurative. That's what a teacher does. But I'm not going to take the time to do that now, of course. And it would take too long for me to teach you the grammar. You got to take a course on that. All right. But I want to show this very simple example of how we do not see this person as a bull, but yet he is called a bull. And the kings wore bull tails, by the way. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But what were you about to say?
I said that I have a question about that, right? I've been studying Medew Netcher for a minute under Reggie, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I got a question that the kids that mind boggles me, and that's the sounds. How do we know? Because we say we know it's a dead language, right?
Yes.
I mean, it's not spoken; it's dead language, and when we're reading it. But how do we know how it sounds? That's the part that I get stuck with. Like, how do we know that how it sounds?
We don't.
Because we say, you understand my question?
Yeah, definitely. We don't. That's quick quick answer. We don't know how it sounds.
Yeah. So if we don't know how it sounds, then how do you read something? Because you have to sound out what it is that you're reading, but we don't know how it sounds.
No, that's not. Well,
confusing.
That part's not true because I can show you right now. I can show you this. I can show you a paragraph in English and you can read it without uttering any sounds. And you can read it and comprehend it. You don't have to utter a sound to comprehend something.
Okay, you have to show me that.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll show you something. I'm gonna show you something. I want you to read this right here. Read that read what I have on the screen right there, but don't read it out loud. Don't make no sound. And I want you to read it and tell me when you're done.
Okay.
Okay, did you understand it?
Yeah.
Did you make a sound?
No.
There you go.
But I know what each one of those letters sound like.
No, but you didn't need the sound to understand the meaning. Sound and meaning are independent. You did not have to hear a sound to understand the meaning. And in fact, a lot of people mispronounce words when they
but hold on, but each one of those letters in each word makes a sound. Each one of those letters, right, in each word makes a sound. And together they make a word.
Yeah.
Right. And those words make up sentences, and the sentences make up paragraphs.
Right.
So so me knowing what a L sounds like, or A or N or Q sounds like, so when I look at the letter, I know what that letter sounds like. You understand what I'm saying?
But what I get you, but what I'm trying to tell you is that just because you know what a letter sounds like does not mean you know what it means, because I can show you an English word that you know the sound of every single consonant in that word, but yet you have no idea what the word means.
Right, right, right. I got that part right.
So how about
I
those
was
apples?
I was gonna give you a good example that would make you understand.
Oh, let that sink in for a second. I can show you a word that uses the English alphabet where you know
Right.
the sound of every individual English character, but yet you do not know the meaning of the word. So that enforces what I'm telling you is that sound is independent from meaning. Sound is a phonetic phenomenon. Meaning is a semantic phenomenon. That's why I encourage people to study semantics, because it's different. And I but I get it. It is confusing, but it shouldn't be confusing. But this is something people are gonna have to start to understand, and that's why people are confused about the Egyptian language. They're like, well, wait a minute. If you don't know how the glyphs sound exactly, then how you know what it means? I try to tell people we don't know. We don't have to know how it sounds to know what it means. I can read something,
No, yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know.
No, no, I got you. I definitely get you with that. That makes sense. Yeah. I don't think I'm talking about the meaning so much, but just the basic what it sounds like. In other words, like you know the glyph that looks like a cup upside down that makes the letter T, right? That we say T, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So, other words, T, the sound T. So the sound T, from looking at that glyph, I know that that's a T, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how do we know that that the sound is T? That's what I'm trying to say.
Right, and that's why I answered you the first time is that we don't know the exact pronunciations of the word, but we don't have to understand its meaning. So once you understand that first, then you go back to your first question, and that your it's answered. We don't know how the word will sound, but we don't need to get its meaning. So if its meaning we're after, then we're good. But if it's the exact sounds we're after, then we're stuck. But we want meaning. We want to know what it means. So if I say Peterenek to you,
Right,
the way the ancient Egyptians pronounce what I just said may be totally different, but you understand what I mean. I know what it means. It means, what is your name? Peterenek, what is your name? That's what I'm asking you. Peterenek, what's your name? But an Egyptian may say it differently than how I just said it. And if I ask them, they probably wouldn't understand what I'm saying. But if when you
yeah,
read it, see reading,
deep. That's deep. That's real deep.
yeah, reading. See, that's what I'm saying. Reading is different than listening and hearing what somebody's saying. Reading comprehension is a different phenomenon, because a writing system is the visual representation of speech, and so all you're trying to convey is meaning. That's the whole.
Right,
That's the whole point of communication is meaning, because we're not
right,
telepathic. We're not telepathic. We only use writing as a vehicle to convey meaning. That's it. So the point is meaning, not so much sound. In a spoken language, your meaning is put into a vehicle called sound patterns.
right,
So like
right,
like for
right.
example, if I want to convey the meaning to you of a large elephant with big ears, weighs tons, and have a snout and some ivory tusk, if I want to convey that concept to you, I will package it into the sound pattern elephant. But if you were a Swahili speaker, I would package that same concept into a sound pattern ndovo. You see what I'm saying? So my point is my point
Right.
is to convey the meaning, even though it sounds totally different.
I think
That's
it's the
right.
same. I think it's the same thing with Hebrew. You know what I'm saying? Because there's no vowels in there. They don't know how that thing sounds. But they did the work to find out what the words mean and the signs and the symbols. So they
Exactly.
do their best to fill in the blank.
Yeah, the Egypt
I would say the same. It's the same thing with that.
the writing system, the Sesh Netcher writing system does not have any vowels. It did not document the vowels. So
Right.
so we don't know, and you can't have vocalization
So when
without
we
vowels.
say words like Hotep, that that may sound completely different.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes. Exactly.
Wow.
But
Wow.
we know it means we know it means
Like the
an offering.
sacrifice or an offering, like an
Right.
offering.
Exactly. We know it means offering. We know it means food. We know it has an extended semantic meaning of peace, and most people use it for peace. So
Right.
we know what it means, but the pronunciations could be totally different. Even the word ma'at, everybody's ma'at. It means order, reciprocity, truth, and
Right.
stuff like that. But ma'at, that second sound that people are trying to pronounce when they say ma'at, that sound is really a nasalized uvular trill, and we don't even have that in the English language. So nobody's pronouncing the word ma'at correctly. So
Wow.
there's certain sounds of the consonants that we do know, but we don't even pronounce them correctly.
That's deep.
You know what I'm saying? The consonants we know, we have a good command on those. The vowels are where we have issues. You know what I'm saying? So a T, and you got to remember that every sound has a name. So like for example, what's the name of the sound for B? The letter B. And so all we know in our day-to-day conversation is we say B. Pronounce a B, we say B, B, B. But we don't know that the actual name of the sound is a voiced bilabial plosive. That's what the sound is called. And so how is that sound represented in other writing systems? In the Egyptian writing system, is represented by a foot, a leg and foot glyph. In English is represented by a line with a loop at the bottom. You see what I'm saying? So there's totally different things that people got to understand is going on that we take for granted.
That's really interesting, especially the way you broke that down. That's interesting.
Yeah, somebody made a good point on the chart that we tend to forget. It's like making an example with how a deaf person would be reading, be able to read stuff because they're not going off of pronunciations or things like that. And if you've taken, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'm looking at it. What he did. No. I'm sorry. Finish. I'll say what I was gonna say after you're done.
Okay, yeah. So that would, we kind of take certain things for granted because we're doing it, naturally, and then we forget how writing systems work because like I remember when I first started learning Danish, I wasn't even in Denmark yet, but I had to learn, and they have extra letters in the alphabet that I didn't even know how they sounded like. So
see, my problem when entering it is I'm using or I was using the same. Okay.
Oh, you're breaking up.
You broke up.
Breaking up.
Can you hear me now?
All right, go ahead. Start over.
No, I'm sorry. So I was saying. So my problem was that I approached it the same way that I learned Arabic. You know what I mean? Because I could speak Arabic, I could read Arabic, I could write Arabic. So I was approaching it the same way to get thrown for a whole loop. Like, nah, bro, you gotta throw that out.
Yeah, exactly. So
right,
and that's the thing. See, you can't. That's a big difference with this language. Egyptian language can't be learned in the same manner that we learn spoken, living languages today. We can't do that way. So like for example, since you can read Arabic, remember what I said, a voiced bilabial plosive is represented in the English writing system as a line with a circle at the bottom. We call it a letter B. In Arabic, how is that same sound represented?
The B, it looks like let's say a U upside down, a U with a dot under it, which would be ba.
Right. So it's an upside down U, right?
Right.
Okay. So now you see how you had to describe how that looked, because I mean obviously we could probably draw it, but see how it looks totally different. but it
Yeah.
it represents the same sound.
Yeah.
Exactly. So as long as you know that each character, these are called graphemes, graphs and graphemes. Every graph in the language stands for a distinct sound, and what it does is it's called the Alan, I think I'm hearing background noise on you. I'm gonna
I'm
mute
gonna
you.
mute. Hold up.
Okay. So what I guess, because I'm trying not to be too long with it, right? But here's the thing: every single language on the planet has a fixed phonology, which means that it has a fixed inventory of sounds that compose the language. Each sound is represented visually by some kind of either pictographic character or just a character that don't resemble no pictures or anything. And so every one of those represent a distinct sound. Even if you don't know what the sound is, you just know that whatever that character is, it represents a distinct sound, even if you don't know what the sound is. And so if you were to swap one character out for another, and it doesn't change the meaning of the word, then you know that those two characters you swap with each other, they're called allographs of each other, because it didn't change the meaning. But if it does change the meaning, now you know you have a distinct sound, even if you don't even know what the sound is. You see, that's how we could deduce what's what. And so it's not hard. It's just that people gotta really study and understand what's going on. Linguistics is a phenomenal study, all the different branches, but people gotta really get into it to really understand these
like
things.
If you took that letter aha, right, or a ja, right, in the language, and you just moved one thing,
it changed.
You complete. Yeah, that makes sense.
It changed it now. But see, even if I don't know how to pronounce that, at least I know that those are two distinct letters or two distinct sounds. You see what I'm saying?
Right. I got you.
Exactly.
Thanks,
so
man.
that's the same.
Thank you. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's what's happening in Egyptian. So now shameless plug. We talk about this in our book in the rebuttal to Walter Williams' book, where we talk about the decipherment, because that's the issue people had. It's like, how you gonna put sounds to pictures? How you gonna put sounds to pictures and all this and that? And so we break all of that down in that book. So if you don't have it, man, make sure you get it. It'll help you out further.
Man, that thing baffled the hell out of me. I didn't understand that book when I read that. I was like, I got to that page and I was like, wait a minute. How could you say this? I'm like, oh God.
Oh, you talking about Walter Williams' book or ours?
Yeah, Walter Williams' book. I'm like,
oh, right.
That's crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's like, I mean, once I bought I read that, and when I bought his Islam book and who he said who Muhammad was, and I was like, yo, hold up, this dude. Then he said he about to write another book saying that Plato, Socrates, and all them is fake and all this other crazy.
Yeah,
I was like, yo, this guy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. He's our beloved elder, but sometimes we gotta know, we gotta check behind things. Yeah, and so we respectfully addressed all of his claims, and one of his claims was, how do you put sounds?
Did he get a copy of your book?
oh, we made sure we sent him a copy first.
What was his reply after he read it?
He actually was interviewed and asked that question, and he basically gave his respect to us for doing the book, and he didn't address it. I don't, now me, and I'm not being biased, but I don't see how he can address it. Like he can't refute what we're saying, because we're going point for point and answering some questions. Like, for example, he didn't even know the Canopus stone existed, and so we had to show him a picture of it in the book.
Yeah. So he didn't know how to come back from that one.
Right. So he hasn't said anything since. So no, but we address all that good stuff. But listen, it's 1:32, boy. We half hour over the time. I said I was gonna stop, but now we could talk now. But I'm trying to, keep keep it close. So now I haven't been paying attention to the chat, so maybe June or anybody paying attention to the chat.
Ain't nothing going on in the chat. There's somebody that they want to come on, but he ain't coming on.
Well, he's asking for the source. What is our sources? I'm trying to let him know that he or she.
The source on what? The source on
I
what?
don't know, because the topic is why people believe in literal interpretations of Egyptian text. So we're talking about what people. So the sources are the people, which would be us. We're talking about what we have heard and all that stuff, all that type of stuff. In case he wants to know why we are not dropping sources. So we are talking about us or people around in a community.
Yeah.
So that's your sources.
Oh, I don't know what the source. There is no source for our question, our topic question. But if it's something specific that people asking a source for, I mean, I don't know what that is though. Yeah. And so here's the thing. Oh, Alan. So let me. I got a question because your phone died earlier.
Right.
So here's the question. This is a serious question to you. Okay, you're trying to research something, right? And you have Scholar A's book, and then you read it, and you be like, okay, bam, that scholar answered your question, right? So now you as a student, you don't want to just take one scholar's point on it. You want to investigate some other scholars and compare. So now you pick up Scholar B's book, and Scholar B answers your question too, but Scholar B is the opposite of Scholar A. And so at that point, with just those two opposing scholars, now they're the experts compared to you. They're experts, but they're disagreeing with each other. So my question to you is, in that situation, what do you do?
I go look at the other people. So this is what I do. So whenever I buy a book on a subject that I want, I first research the person and see who they are. And I'm really looking at the back of the book. That's what I do. I look at the sources they use. And I find out that I learn more that way because there's stuff that they left out that's in the source. So when I do that, I kind of like figure out where you even got this from or how you came up to that. And then that's how I come to my conclusions. So if I got point A and point B, I'll look at it and I'll be like, okay, who else is here? So I have a list for what I'm dealing with, because in order for you to write this book, you had to use sources. So I'm looking in the back of the book. And when I do that, you know what I'm saying, that's how I come to my conclusions.
Okay, so now let me just,
because I saw multiple times where people would do that. Like I seen it there, I just can't remember off the top of the head. But one person was real good at this, and this was Wesley Muhammad. He wrote a book or a pamphlet called Arabia Egyptian of the origin of the Yoruba people or something like that. So when I looked at his sources in the back, I was like, wait a minute, I got this one, and this one. And that right there I'm like, wait a minute. And I go look in it, it did make his point, but he left something out, which was the conclusion to that paragraph that says that that's not right and exact. I just happen to know about the subject. I'm saying,
yeah.
So I'll be careful now with that. But it's weird because that's too much, man.
Okay, so now let me so to just summarize what you said, when you're facing that situation, you then have to go beyond the two scholars and you have to actually glimpse at them showing their work. You have to look at their methods and what they use to come to their conclusions, and then you got to do your investigation, right?
Right.
Okay, so bam.
And
so
the perfect example of that is what you brought up with that Noble Juwali thing. So I had the book, and I'm reading this book, and I'm like, yo, I never heard this before. Where he get this shit from? So I'm looking at it, and I'm like, yo, Danny, you saw this before? I'm like, nah, I ain't never heard this. I'm like, yo, where he get this from? I saw he got it from where? Yo, son, we got to call his library. Call the library, ask him about it, and he gave us that and more. So now when I got it and I'm reading the source, I was like, yo, this is crazy. So if I never did that and I just took it on face value and I used that book to reference that, I would kind of be caught out there because he didn't put the whole entire thing in there.
Okay, my man. So
understand?
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So that's mostly of what I said. that people are going to have to do when it comes to everything they study, really, but in Egypt and everything. So you can't microwave that. Now, had you microwaved it, then you would have been running with the whole Noble Drew Ali is wasn't a magician doing this type of stuff when.
Yeah, if I would have used that source the way he did it and how he put it in the paragraph, I don't even know why he minimized those points. And I would have got caught. We would have got caught out there. They'd be like, yo, son, where you get that? What are you talking about? And now it's a whole body to that story that leads you to other things. And that makes the point that he ain't even bring up. So I was like, yeah, I got to look it up. So the same thing, if I really want to know something, you already know we already went over this. I like science and the cosmology and the science. I'm going to look up every person that I can find and talk about that.
Right, exactly. So that's the whole point. So now that's a lesson to be learned for anybody, because what you're going to end up having to do is when you are seeking knowledge, at some point you're going to have to put in some work, because otherwise, and this is what Emiket was saying earlier, because you have a choice. Either you can allow other people to think for you, or you can put in the work and start thinking for yourself. And that's the the gist of what I heard her saying earlier. And so you chose to think for yourself, and you were like, all right, I'm gonna have to investigate their sources and see how they came to their conclusions. And you had to put in some work. You had to call the what was it, newspaper or library or whatever. You had to research. So that's a good thing. That's what people gotta really adopt. And that's all I'm saying when people try to microwave Egypt. They can't do it. I have tons of books about Egypt. I have books on the survey. I have the German book, Grandpa's book, where he did a survey of all of the phrase and singular words that are written for figurative purposes. I have dissertations from people who have taken that work and went further, and even went to just the kings in royal inscriptions. They surveyed all the royal inscriptions, and there's 4 categories of royal inscriptions. There's inscriptions that are self-promoting inscriptions. You got inscriptions that are decrees and stuff like that, and they comb through each one and pull the figurative use of different things for the kings. For example, animals are used heavily. This is not just Egypt, this is all across Africa. Animals are used in a figurative way when it comes to talking about kings and their deeds and what they do and all this other kind of stuff. It's always compared to some kind of animal, but that doesn't believe that they are the animal. It's usually an attribute. And some of the texts spell it out. And that's the thing. Some of the texts actually spell these things out.
Okay, so speaking of Amenhotep, the one you showed, to why was he called the bull? Or why was the bull represented? He represented as a bull.
Okay, so for example, with the bull, that's a good one. The bull represents victory, it represents virility, and it represents success. And so the king is the bull of his mother, which means that he is the one that how a parent makes their a child makes their parent proud. He's the one. When it said, like, for example, the person I showed you all, Amenhotep, his name is Ka Waf Ta'u, which is the bull who subdued the lands. The bull is the attributes of the bull in that case is somebody who is victorious, somebody who is strong, because just like today, we used to measure strength by horses and we call it horsepower, whereas in ancient times they measured strength by bulls and called it bull power. Not literally, not the English words bull power, but they looked at strength in the animal of a bull like we look at strength in the animal of a horse today. You get that? So the bull was a symbol of strength. It was a symbol of victory.
Oh, so is that why they had to do the king had to do it, the Hepset, what they call the Hepset?
Yes, they had to do the bull run. That's what you're talking about, the bull run, because the bull run was a demonstration of the king's strength and his endurance. And this was done during his Zed festival. It's called a Zed festival, which is a festival where the king demonstrated his ability to continue to rule. And this was done every 30 years if the king lived that long.
Yo, so how the hell did SETI been able to do that? Because the oldest how old did they live? Like the oldest was what, about 80, 70?
That I'm not sure. It's off the top of my head. I'm not sure.
But old, right?
Yeah, some of them got up there. Yeah, some of them got up there, but not.
And
Yeah.
and they still had to do the bull run, the upset. They still had to do that.
Oh yeah, that was a staple of the culture. They had to do that said festival. They did
Yo,
that.
so at
They did
70
that.
years old, he had to get out there and do the Olympics.
but I hope everybody get the point that the bull is not. You're comparing a bull. I mean, listen, it's really going to boil down to people studying what figurative language is. Period. Like people are gonna have to know what a metaphor is. They're gonna have to know what a allegory is. They're gonna have to know what illusion is, what ambiguity is, what an analogy is, what anthropomorphism is, what is personification, what is aphorism, what is that? What is aporia? What is apophasis? All these are different types of figurative speech and things. Even the word cliche. What is a cliche? You know, and things like that. We use these things, a paradox, oxymoron. We use these literary devices every day, all day. But people may not even know that that's what they're doing. Like when I say, like the other night, somebody came on here and said, "Man, I'm lit." That don't mean that they're shining bright, literally lit up. They're using that as a metaphor. Whenever,
That's almost like emojos today, man.
Yes.
Like emojos that people using today, emojos in conversation and texting.
Mm-hmm. That's
that
true.
Could be. What you say?
I said that's true. Yep.
Yeah, that could be contributing to the same thing, like emojos. Sometimes I seen people have conversation with just using emojos.
Yep. So
you can make out what they saying.
Yeah. So that's the thing. People are gonna have to stop taking these literary devices we use every day for granted, and understand that ancient people used it out of necessity, whereas today we kind of use it leisurely. Whereas they had to use it out of necessity, and that was just their mode of communication. For us, we kind of play around with it, like I'm lit. And whenever you compare two things with a to be verb, then it is a metaphor. When you compare two things with and you introduce the word like or as, then that's a simile. That's the difference between a metaphor and a simile. And those are pretty much the two popular things that a lot of people use. They say, "Oh man, those shoes are fire, man. Those shoes are hot." We don't mean that literally.
So the question becomes: when did things started to become literal? When?
There you go. See, yeah.
When mumble rap came through, because listen, like if you listen to hip hop music, this should not be a problem. If if you listen to artists, because MCs are pretty good at figurative writing, and we listen to the songs and we get it. So I don't know, maybe it's the mumble rap that came through and kind of just jacked everything up.
Listen, man, I'm gonna tell you.
But in history, when did things start becoming literal? That's a good question when you think about.
I mean, that's simple. That's with time, bro.
It's with time. It's with time. But now check this out. It's with time, and it's with a breakdown in the system. So, and I always use Freemasonry for the example, because if you become a Freemason and you're in there, you don't think of things the same way as if you're looking from the outside. And so they call people who try to look from the outside in, they call them eavesdroppers, Cohens and eavesdroppers, and they always get it wrong. And so you get conspiracy theories and stuff from people who don't even get initiated. But if you get in there and you go through the degrees, then you have a better understanding. So what happens is these onlookers to practices that were not their own, they started to speculate on it and took things literally, and then they created institutions and whole systems out of it, and then it permeated, and it was used by the ruling class to control the masses. That's what Alan was saying earlier, what we were saying earlier, where there's a shift in how these things are used. They're not used in their pedagogical way, they're used in a subdue way, like servants and subjugation of a population of people.
So you know what that means then? That means, okay, you know how sometimes we have conversations and we talk about genes and we talk about mutations, right? Mutations in biology. So then language also goes through mutations. You know what I mean?
Definitely, yes. Language goes through evolution. Social, there's social evolution, linguistic evolution. Language change all the time. Like what
Yeah, so
people. Yep.
there's mutation in languages and mutation in information and knowledge.
But
There are mutations.
now hold up. Now we got to make a distinction. There's linguistic mutations in sounds, and then there's
Mm-hmm.
mutations in meaning.
Mm-hmm.
So like what I can say something like, for example, a faggot today is different than a faggot maybe 100 years ago.
Yeah, that was a cigarette.
Uh,
Careful, bro. Careful saying these things. The show might just end.
oh, oh, because no,
Yes.
because of what it means. You know, when you study etymology, you're studying the historical path of a word, not just how it was used in history, but you're looking at how it was used and the changes that it occurred, if so, and you can see how the
Right.
semantic scope broadens and change and so on and so forth. You know, like the word spirit. I always use the word spirit.
Yeah.
The word spirit started off as a denotation of wind and breath, and then it
Right.
became it switched and was used metaphorically to anything that you could not see but affected the movement of something that you could see, and so then it switched.
I would just
Right.
want to know, like, why it's easy to understand allegory today and any other time and in the Bible, but when it comes to Kemet, like people decide to like say they meant it literally. And I'm just wondering because it's really hard for me to understand, probably just as hard as it is. It seems like for them to understand like where they're coming from, it's really like it's making my head hurt right now. So I'm just
Yeah,
really
that was my
wondering.
question before.
Oh, my bad. I was in the chat just going back and forth, so I kind of missed a lot.
Oh no, that's good. I'm just saying it's good because that was the question I had when it comes to like things like Greek mythology and all that and things like because there's people like people understand where figurative in other kind of literature they understand the figurative versus the literal. It's just there's just a block when it comes to chemistry.
Hey,
Right.
listen,
Even
we got excuse me, we got 11 minutes, y'all. So let's get it in for these 11 minutes, and I'm gonna seriously shut it down this time because that was an hour ago that I tried to do it before, but this is for real this time. So,
Yeah, when it comes to Kemet, it's like everything goes out the window. But in any other culture, y'all understand it, no problem.
yeah, and that's part of why I'm going through these conversations is I'm trying to really figure this out because it's almost and it's not anybody here in the panel or that I've seen in the chat at least, but I have seen people seem like they need for the Egyptian text to be literal in order to reject it, so they don't have to like really investigate it. Like it's almost like a cop out lazy move. Like oh that's spooky, so I ain't gotta deal with it. Instead of like wait a minute, man, this may have some reality behind it. It's almost the same thing as if I take you know the Nation of Islam lessons, and I all of a sudden I come across this Daddy Shabazz or this Yaqub story. I be like, oh man, them dudes are spooked out. Now I just put it down. It give me the excuse to be like, okay, I could throw that in the trash. But then somebody can explain to me and say, nope, Yaqub is not really a scientist with the size of two big heads. This is what it really means. This is the reality. That's just figurative. It really is this. You know, I would have to go in on it, and that takes time and work. You know what I'm saying? So hold up. We got knowledge, wisdom, understanding, culture or freedom, power or refinement, equality, God, build, destroy, born, and cipher. What's up, Alan?
I
What's
like
the
that.
science?
I love that.
There we go,
What's
boy.
the day's math, Alan? What's the day's math, Alan?
Oh God.
Please, sir.
What's
What's the
today's
day's
mathematics?
math, God? I always wanted to say
Knowledge.
that. What's the day's math, God?
Nah,
Knowledge,
you always
freedom.
wanted to say it. Knowledge culture of being born in power, man. You know what I'm saying? It's there.
There it
I like
is.
it, man. I like that because I like when I look at I like to find out where the things came from or come from. Like, yo, how you make this up? So I looked at um people who deal with numbers as representing principles. And the one on one correspondence I saw got me pissed off because I saw it came from Greeks. And I was like, what the hell is this monad? So I was looking at Pythagoras. So now let me go study this guy history. And he says that he learned this from Egypt. So I don't know. I don't see this there. But anyway, long story short, they never used numbers. They used the symbols to represent the number, and he said numbers represent principles. So the first number, the symbol would be the hieroglyph Ra, the circle with the dot in it. But there's a concept, a whole wild concept behind it. And I'm looking at this like, wait a minute. Then I look at the second symbol is the diad and the triad. And when I saw this, I was like, wow, this is crazy. And then they put arithmetic to it.
Yeah.
So they would say the number one is the foundation of all things in existence. That's the creator. And they was like, we're going to use arithmetic to explain this concept. So they would say one times any number will always give you that single number. One divided by that will always be that number. No numbers could exist without one. All numbers have to have the number one in it. And that's the all in all. And I'm like, why are you using the Egyptian symbol of Ra though? What the hell is this? You know what I'm saying? So anyway, long story short, I like it. You know what I'm saying? I see where certain things come from and I build on it, add on it. And if it don't make sense, I throw it in the garbage. I'll tell you quick, nope, that's fake.
All right. Positive energy always creates elevation. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, if it's garbage, I throw it in the garbage. I'll tell you real quick, garbage.
So I want to know: do you believe in like numerology, or do you understand the philosophy?
No. I don't believe in predicting stuff with numbers, and I don't do none of that.
I think it's a science in that, and I think like if you study science, you'll find out like more about numbers because every number has a philosophy.
Well, yeah, you're right with that. So if you look at just biology, you know what I'm saying, or you look at how the body works, if you look at my cell division.
Well, I meant in physics, not biology. I meant physics and physics. Like if you understand.
Well, I'm gonna use the body to make the point. You know what I'm saying, so it takes a certain amount of time for blood to flow throughout the human body. You exhale you give out certain carbon dioxide and come in. Everything is regulated by numbers. Everything. Your whole body system, every system in your body is regulated by numbers, bro.
So you don't think
in the universe is regulated by a set form of numbers?
Well, see, this is the thing.
I look at a number as a token that represents a specific principle.
Oh, whoa, wait, man. So a number.
Get out of here! Don't try it, Wujao.
No. Listen. See, you know what? Hey, listen, y'all. I'm gonna tell y'all. This is what Alan does. See, when Alan started to have these internal epiphanies, boy, he don't like it, so he like block it away. Get out of here. No, seriously though, what you just said, you said a number represents. The moment you say a number can represent something else, but it's not that something else itself, then you're still explaining that it's figurative. Listen, figurative expression is as old as humanity is been in existence, you know, and we just got to start to understand that, and we got to be honest. I would rather people be honest when they read an Egyptian text, like whether it's in the language or not, whether they read the English translation or not. When they read it, I would feel better if people are honest and say, "Yo, I don't know what the realities are behind these things, but hey, that was a good story, and I can appreciate it." And leave it alone. But the moment people say, okay, well, they believed in this, then you got to say, well, why am I saying that? Like, how do I know that? And we got to be honest. People don't know. People really don't know. So, like, Alan, let me ask you this real quick. How do you? What does this mean when people say, her equality rules? This is the only. Wait a minute. How does it go? I don't remember it. I'm trying to paraphrase, but I probably shouldn't even paraphrase. But it's saying, see, I power her equality rules. This is only saying that a wisdom can make a weak man rotate around her equality, being the womb.
I don't know what the hell that is. You older than me, so I don't know where you pulled that from.
All right, so yeah, all right, scratch that because I heard somebody say that, and I thought they were like a 5% or something, saying that.
I hear people say a lot of stuff, man, and they just be making up stuff, bro. And I just be listening, like, wow, man. I heard somebody justify why they call women a beat, and
Oh,
and I was astonished.
wow.
I was astonished. He's like, yeah, I'll just say it real quick. He said, yeah, God, you know, you gotta do the science. I was like, explain to me why you keep calling this black woman a beat, bro. He's like, yo, a dog is a part of nature, right? I said, yeah. He said, what does a dog do? I said, a dog barks. He said, a bark is a part of a tree, right? Yeah, that's nature. So, God, we can say that. What the fuck? What? Yo, I almost beat fire out the dude, yo. I almost knocked this dude right off.
But listen, so now you see how easy it is for people to be totally wrong and spookify something. They say, okay, a dog is part of nature, and what does a dog do? It barks, and the bark is a part of a tree. Therefore, it's all right for me to call a woman a bee. That's crazy. That's crazy.
I swear to God, this dude told me that.
All right, but listen, y'all, we got 2 minutes, man. So let's just make some rounds on the panel. Anybody got any closing words? Because I'm gonna really shut it down this time. So let's pass the mic. Let's wrap it up. But I want to go ahead and wrap it up. Whoever want to grab the mic and wrap it on up.
I just want to say it was a great discussion. I didn't mean to offend anybody in the chat. Again, I was just, joking around back and forth, but it was a good build. I really feel like everybody's really saying the same thing, just from a different perspective, and we haven't came to a common consensus of understanding yet. But yeah, peace to everybody in the chat and on the panel.
Peace to everybody, you know what I'm saying? Hopefully Bujawa don't do round 11.
Now I think I got enough to to build on something, to put together something, to share with people, put something on people's minds. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was a really good conversation, and it was a good idea to have that before jumping the gun and trying to understand where people are coming from for them. So I think it was good to kind of know, and those the suggestions, I think they were good. They kind of pretty much say the same thing. So, but dua to those who participated.
All right. Morpheus, got anything to close?
Nah, man, it was great, man. I appreciate it, bro.
All right, no problem.
We want Morpheus to say mojos again.
Oh, you say mojos. Everybody was getting you on you and your mojos. I mean, emojis. June, you got anything?
Nah,
Yeah.
I just
we
appreciate. Hold on, it's your brother June. Appreciate everybody that joined the panel and participated. Shout out to everybody in the chat, and that's it. So,
yeah, Bujawa. You got like 5 different things I request for the build on, man. And you be dogging me, son.
No. One at a time. We'll hit it, cause
yeah. So one at a time is.
Yep.
I want to know about this 36,000 year rule before the historical kings. I want to know about that. What is that?
That was a recent one. That was your recent request. So that's cool. That's cool. But what I wanted, because you also wanted to build on the that book of knowing the transformation of Ra. So we never got around to that. You know what I'm saying? So don't forget
we
that
was supposed to do part 2, but you know what I'm saying? We started banging. You know what I'm saying? So that's a wrap.
Right. So we got to revisit that, because that could benefit a lot of people though. So, but we'll get together.
Next time I want to talk about the emerald tablets. Let's go.
Oh man,
ain't no emerald tablets. We ain't even talking about that. That don't exist.
Emerald tablets, boy, that's crazy. That's like the Akasha records.
Exactly.
Emerald tablets.
Marquise.
People really believe that too, man.
Let Billy Carson eat, man. Leave him alone.
Oh nah, that's just definitely not happening. Marquise, I know you've been kind of quiet. I don't know if you have something to close with. If you're able to speak. Going once, going twice. All right, so yeah, I'll just close with this. You know, the discussion was why people believe in literal interpretations of Egyptian texts. And again, the purpose of me doing that was to get some more specific feedback, you know, so I can have something to move forward with and trying to change the conversation or, you know, speak specifically. Because I already know generally there's a lot of people who believe in a literalism of a lot of things, not just Egyptian text, but the Bible, the Quran, and you know, other things. So that's not the issue. The issue is like on why, like what are people using? And so I'm trying to really expose the weakness that people have and not being honest with the fact that we don't know. But the assumption has become the norm and the consensus at that. And you know how we roll with consensus. Whatever the consensus is, we tend to roll with it without putting our minds to it further. And a lot of people don't have time to do it because we gotta live our life. You know, we living, so we don't want to study any further than what the scholars say. So, you know, some people take it further, and we gotta examine those things. So hopefully we'll be able to have these conversations.
You gotta send a back call out next time, man. You know I'm the ultimate shit starter. So if you have this type of conversation, I know a whole bunch of people that will come on here, bro.
All right, so we're gonna I'm gonna revisit it, but in a more you know, have something to bite on now, you know, and plus hopefully we get some people on both sides of that stick. So, but remember that example I said, most time people on the both sides, both of them are wrong, and it's just one person rejects it, take it literal, and some other person take it literal and they accept it, and they try to even practice it, you know, and that's, you know, it could get a little crazy, but yeah, so hopefully in the future we'll be able to do it. But you know what I'm gonna do though, I am gonna have like a little lecture on what figurative expression is, like
I told you could not resist, bro.
The different kinds. No, we have to, because there's people who just don't know what it is, and how, and all the different types, and what they are and how they're used. Believe it, I'm telling you, people don't know, and it's not nothing bad. It's just that.
And you know what? What would be a good idea is demonstrated in other cultures as well. Mm-hmm. Not just Kemet. Show it in, like, you know, the Mayan culture or other cultures. Show other cultures doing it.
Yeah, but what's interesting?
I like the Tiberian Book of the Dead, man. I was reading that now. I'm like, wow, these guys are special over there. They dealing with the same thing, bro.
Yeah. So listen, we gotta understand how to explain things. Anyway, how things were explained, I should say. Anyway, so it's 2:05, and listen, I appreciate anybody who tuned in, because this was a drop of the dime type of live, and I know the football game was going on and everything like that, and plus it's on a weekday, it's Monday, and people still hung out with us, so that's greatly appreciated. So thumb up the video, share it. You know, people want to get down with this conversation, and we're gonna have some more.
Get right over COVID. Just get right over COVID side. That's all right. It's okay.
My fault, Kofi. You got something to close with? Man, Kofi was all quiet.
No, I just popped in.
Why you always be quiet in here, Kofi?
I be speaking, man. I just popped in here, man. I just got out for work, man, and seen y'all was still alive, so I said, let me pop in here and see what's going on.
All right. So yeah, I'm gonna close out, but I'm gonna close out with you know, our older intro when this is a throwback when Sean and Jehudi first became members of the Sesh. So I'm gonna close y'all with that, and I'm gonna say Shema Hotep, which is a farewell greeting of peace, and Godet Nefir, which is good night. So I'm gonna say good night, and Shema Hotep. See y'all.
Peace.